Welcome everyone to the 67th Cache Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015. And we'll begin the workshop with the Cache Foundation Spaceship Institute promotional video.
Where does humanity go from here? What have we tried to do? What if there is more, much more? The Cache Foundation is proud to announce a new way to bring humanity forward through technology that brings humanity in line with the natural operation of the planet and universe itself. The new science and technology discovered and developed by the nuclear engineer Moran Cache centers upon the use and control of magnetical gravitational fields. This new body of knowledge opens the road to hundreds of potential applications, which offer solutions to most of the fundamental problems of the world, such as water, food, environmental contamination, and shortages of energy. The Cache Foundation is proud to unveil the Cache Foundation Spaceship Institute. Nestled amidst the beautiful shores of Bari, Italy, the Institute is poised to become a central hub in the spreading of plasma technology and knowledge. With its state-of-the-art 21st century facilities, the Institute will be able to provide students to be the leaders of the new generation of scientists and plasma engineers. The Cache Foundation has opened the door to the world for peaceful usage of technology that is independent of the limited resources that are available on Earth. And it applies to everything from the smallest to the biggest, from atoms to galaxies. We all are able to collectively work together in pursuit of knowledge, innovation, and solutions for our society. This learning environment is new to the world, where there will be no test to confirm your understanding. The knowledge of everyone will be respected and allowed to flourish in a nurturing environment. Hands-on testing and experimenting will be widely used in conjunction with roundtable discussions to bring all opinions and knowledge forward. Students will be introduced to a change in the ethos of working in collaboration. Students will experience firsthand how we share knowledge in a free and open manner. Graduating students are expected to share the knowledge they gain from the university within their respective communities and nations. All formal teachings, lectures, and presentations will be in the English language, with technology available for immediate translation. Cache Foundation Spaceship Institute will be offering 3-year executive master programs for undergraduate degree students and 1-year executive master programs for graduate degree students in the following fields: space transportation, new plasma technology, health, agriculture, materials, energy. The health section is designed to make students able to live in space without the need to return to Earth. To this end, the Cache Foundation Spaceship Institute has found processes for many diseases including ALS, cancer, coma, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis. Cache Foundation Spaceship Institute will offer online teaching courses which will enable anyone, anywhere around the world to enroll and increase their knowledge and understanding. Students will have the opportunity to direct their work towards commercial spin-offs and seek funding through the help of the Cache Foundation. The access to the new science and new technologies is openly available for peaceful use to the benefit of mankind to make a better world today. Now you can be part of the changing world and the new knowledge. All commercial spin-offs are intended to be open source and patent-free. This is part of the core ethos of the Cache Foundation and the Cache Foundation Spaceship Institute. Cache Foundation Spaceship Institute will have its official inauguration on April 21st, 2015, with courses commencing soon after on May 4th, 2015. The students of the Cache Foundation Spaceship Institute will be the leaders of the future who will make changes in all areas of space technology, science, medicine, agriculture, and energy. Anyone is able to apply, but acceptance is through invitation only. No prerequisites are required. We will be accepting approximately 250 students for the 3-year Executive Master's Program and 120 students for the 1-year Executive Master's Program. We welcome humanities participation in the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. Where does humanity go from here? That is up to you. Apply today.
Okay, that was the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute promotional video. And now we'll move to main part of the workshop. And just a second here, and I'll have to show my world peace screen here. And now we can move to Mr. Keshe, and I think maybe we're still waiting for the camera side there. Mr. Keshe, are you there?
Live and kicking.
Ah, yes.
Have you managed to find the button yet?
Okay, I see the camera's just coming up here now, I believe.
Is Vince in the background?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Are we ready to go?
I think we're just about there. Is the camera ready there, Vince, almost? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. My camera was hiding behind the World Peace emblem here. So we can stop that. Okay, yes, go ahead, Mr. Keshe.
Yes. Good morning. Good day to you. As usual, whenever and wherever you listen to these teachings. Today, as usual, we make some announcements, and we'll see how we go with the workshops. Good morning. Italian delegation, as usual. Good morning. One of the announcements we have to make today, we have the pleasure of having the directors and of Sir John Searle Group here. They will introduce themselves. Then we have an announcement to make in respect to our work with TEPCO. And we have another announcement which will announce, we'll come to it, we'll talk about it in respect to the energy production. Vince, have you received the documents from Sohail in respect to the cores? Are they ready to go?
Sorry, just getting my mics unmuted here. No, I don't have any information yet.
We can't hear you. Can you talk a bit louder?
Just a moment here.
Hello.
Yep, just a moment.
Just a minute till I'll be able to speak better in a second here. He'll still hook up his mic.
Have you received
You mean just
Have you received the documents from Sohail that we can load up?
No, I have not received the documents from Sohail to load up yet.
Okay, no problem. Okay, one of the first things we have to do is to welcome in the background, first time, the Ghana Space Institute to join us on the teaching on the first session. I know Dr. Nana is in the background, and we welcome you to the Keshe Foundation team. On the other hand, I've asked Armand to take over to bring the Ghana and South African University and Institute into line as fast as possible in respect to the production of nanomaterials. In the coming time, the collaboration with the African universities and institutes in the coming couple of weeks will increase to about 3 nations and universities. And each one of the knowledge seekers around the world will take responsibility to nourish them and bring them up to date to the scratch. We have to do a lot of work with Ghana Space Institute, as to them it's very important to bring a lot of applications in line for the nation. They see a lot of applications, especially in agriculture and there are a team of 19 scientists and researchers in different aspects of the space technology. So we teach them, and in time they will teach us, hopefully, as they've done before. The other important announcement we have to make today is the arrival of the director of the Cyril Group and Cyril Engineering. I will let them introduce themselves. I think it's the best way. Do you want us to come to you, or would you like to come to you, to us? You're welcome. Are you there, the cameraman? There. I'll leave it with you. First of all, you got the camera going there. We have a very slow Italian producer. Okay? Yeah, no problem. First of all, welcome to Keshe Foundation.
Thank you.
I hope you have I hope you have a fruitful cooperation, collaboration. I'll leave it to you to introduce yourselves, and then we go step further.
My name is John Blevin, and I'm the director of Cyril Magnetics. Or I'm on the board of directors of Cyril Magnetics. I'm efficient. And I also gave the presentation with the showing off some of the spaceship technology from, I believe it was Knowledge Seeker Workshop number 61. In the background, I'm an active participant, and I've been following since day one. I know what this means for humanity. I know what's being offered and where this is going. So I look with great excitement for the possibilities of what this all might lead to. And I'm happy to be here with Mr. Keshe and the fellow knowledge seekers, because I think that there's, let's say, a full moon rising.
Yeah, my name is Fernando Morris. I am president of Cyril Magnetics. I represent Professor John Cyril, and I've known him for about 20 years. And we have a facility in San Diego, California. And thanks to John Blyven's interaction over here, he introduced us to this workshop, and we decided to come here and see if we can work out a collaboration between the two organizations. So I'm optimistic about it, and I thank you all for, introducing us to this program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. We're going to start seeing where we can, how we can negotiate a way to bring the knowledge of John Cyril with the expertise of the Germans and the Cyril Group back in the US. I know, as I explained, I wrote an email to John. I know, having a close contact with the engineers and the senior management in NASA, they're looking to see what the outcome of this collaboration will come, that the NASA will make the next move. It's important for them to justify to the board of directors of NASA if, now that the two groups join together, NASA has to play game in the spaceship program too. So it's significant that we come to some sort of understanding, work in a very close way that brings other space agencies onto line to collaborate. And I have the authorization to tell you that in due course we'll have the Iranian spaceship program scientists with us after this collaboration. It's important to overcome the boycotts. And like today, we'll receive the Iranian scientists here directly from the Iranian Space Agency. It'll be in that nice news. Thanks for collaboration. Thank you. Indeed, we'll talk later. We try to transfer knowledge in a very open manner, and our openness has led to a lot of changes in governments. We will talk about this, what's going to happen and the way things are happening. There are a couple of important announcements to make before we start the workshop. And one is that we have run into a problem with TEPCO. We run into a problem in TEPCO in respect to what we have understood TEPCO using the Keshe Foundation technology in bringing stratinum down to 0. As usual, we do not fight, but we open all the communication channels, which has been all the data and all the emails which has been transferred between the two. And if need be, the recording of all the sessions with TEPCO will be published. The reason for the problem is that TEPCO says Keshe Foundation was not supposed to know that they are working for TEPCO in the background, closing the radioactive program. And there was no chance that we could not know, as we were directly in Fukushima in regarding to the test. We were live on the tables, testing being done, advising them what to do. And this is some sort of problem for TEPCO, not for us, because a number of senior management have been asked to resign for this case. And I don't see when an organization like us releases technology and it gets used and is proven to be correct, and they announce it that they've used it to end the biggest problem since the beginning of the explosion of the reactor number 1, has to come to resignation of a number of senior management in different organizations. And so, in a way, in the coming days, we will release documents in a full package, the way it was transferred to TEPCO, all the DHL packages list, all the communications from TEPCO, and hopefully, if comes to the final stage, number of the directors of the companies who directly been involved and been in TEPCO and other companies are prepared to give live attestation that how it was used, how it was brought to end, and how they've been involved in transfer of technology from Keshe Foundation to TEPCO. As is part of the procedure of the Keshe Foundation for World Peace, we do not fight. In a way, we are proud to show that the technology is so correct. And as I said in a couple of teachings yesterday or the day before, there is a possibility, if push comes to shove, the Prime Minister of Japan will resign because of the scandal with TEPCO, because he is personally responsible for using Iranian nuclear technology to overcome the problems in Fukushima without authorization of IAEA. So the situation is very serious, and he has broken international code of conduct. So, as I said, we wait to see how TEPCO reacts, but what we do, we show that the technology was used, how it was used, and I was assured yesterday online, number of senior officers will come live online if need be to say how the technology was used and how it was transferred. So, in a way, it's a good news. The technology is 100% correct, and as we speak now, the cesium and tritium is on the progress and it's been proven to be correct. And I have received documents and reports from Italian atomic authorities in respect to confirming about the cesium reduction and tritium progress. So we thank the Japanese intermediate group and scientists at TEPCO, and we hope will not come to resignation of any of them. So the other program, the other announcement we have to make is that the Keshe Foundation will bring on the table new technologies in the next coming days. We'll show new systems, new technologies, but what we saw with the gentleman 2 weeks ago, that he received whatever telephone calls, we from now on do not announce anything. We just bring it on the table, we show it, and everything will be separated. From today or this week, the Keshe Foundation Space Institute as a teaching organization is totally separated from the Keshe Foundation Research and Development and Keshe Foundation Power Cell Supply. So the new center, Keshe Foundation Institute, is some 10 kilometers away and will carry on with research. We have open research offices there, which will start operating more or less from this week and next week. This allows us, instead of sending scientists to, like in China to develop the technology we saw here. We developed the technology here and publicly allow all the nations to have access for the usage. This way we guarantee the freedom of transfer of knowledge internationally. I'm correct, is the way to it. It's a decision we discussed with Arman, and this is the best way we could see to be able to keep the freedom of the technology in the hand of everyone. Since Arman has come back from China, we had a number of talks about this, and I think it was our decision to be in that way. It was the best way to do. I'm correct? Yeah. So we rely on the advice of the advisors, people who understand what they're doing because they're online, they understand. And the decision after coming back off from China, Arman, we discussed, and it was correct way to keep the knowledge free. So I have spoken to Vince, and from next week or two, all the laboratory tests in the new research center will become the same way, open channel, which means while the scientists are developing a technology, you can literally monitor it. They can discuss it internationally, and we support production around the world the same as we've done with China. I think this is the best way we could do. Arman is very happy with it. So this way does not allow scientists to be scattered. Everybody will come here, and as you've seen, we brought Franco here regarding the health application, and we'll carry on the same way. Next week we have two more scientists, one Italian and one British, will come into the Keshe Foundation and opening up directly their own spin-off, and we give them all the facilities and the support to develop, and their development will be available live. Once it's completed, we'll allow it to be used internationally across the world. This way, the new research center of the Keshe Foundation becomes open to every scientist who has new knowledge and they don't know where to go with it in respect to the plasma technology. So the new center is well equipped, it will be well set up, and allows us to open up to 20 spin-offs immediately. So we are going backtracking on people who had the technology or wanted to develop a technology. Now we finance it. We don't look from outside to finance the spin-offs. We finance all the research ourselves here internally. We are financially solid enough to do it without relying and being dictated what we can develop and what we can research into. So this is a good position to be in. Not many research organizations sit where we sit, where they always have to look for funding. Keshe Foundation is fluent enough to supply, to develop, and do things. And as you've seen, we set up this center. Now the new center is totally within less than a week, is set up and is more or less operating and running. We'll try to keep the same process, and anyone, anywhere around the world who has developed or would like to develop different aspects of the technology, we have now the facilities and internal finances to support. In the coming days, the agricultural arm of the Keshe Foundation will start here in Italy, but we have to find a solution for it because our main researcher is Belgium, and we have to find out how we're going to support this development. As you know, we do not collaborate. We do not allow Belgian scientists in until we sort out our situation there. But the agriculture part here with us, and most probably with South University of Sierra Leone, will start in a very deep way in the coming days. As you know, we have a direct access to the Vice Chancellor of the University and the Office of the President of Sierra Leone to start some researches into agriculture. We have a full support of the government of Sierra Leone for our work. Now with the new center, we can allow all these developments which has been kept on hold suddenly to flourish in the next few weeks. So any of you is interested who can add to the knowledge, not just come to be here and has got expertise, we ask you to come in, you can request, and we'll see what can be done. On the other hand, as we promised about the cancer research. We started the first cancer research yesterday case. We see some flaws in the program. Our gentleman, Mr. Pardon? Yeah, I know, but you got to introduce yourself. Come in, yeah, of course.
Hello, my name is François Flibot. I'm from Quebec, Canada, and I've been working as a teacher to teach the therapists how to use the SCIO device, which is the health device that can diagnose and also treat energetically wise the human beings, animals, or even just about anything. So we are working out to see if we can combine this technology with this skill and make something even greater. So that's what I'm here for. So hopefully we'll find something that very interesting, and who knows where that will lead us. Thank you.
Very much. As I said, Francois is the first spin-off we organized. He arrived here 2 or 3 days ago. In what he showed me, he understands from the structure and what I know, because I spent about 6-7 years working on this. Our ultimate goal is a system which has no doctors and no medicine, where we can diagnose through a system, and we can find a processing through the same system. We tried this process with Professor Lutzi. Professor Lutzi is some 10 years behind what he's doing, so we jump the process, and we saw the first spin-off through this side. But it needs a lot of refining, because he has to understand the way we are looking for the information, and more or less we see a new program needs to be written to bring the 10 or 13 different programs together in the way we want. The knowledge is there, now we have to filter it, and then most probably it goes to Stanley to find a process programming behind in the background, that we get what we want, because then we transfer it to a plasma technology knowledge, immediate transfer. So it's going back to Canada and coming back on September, first week of September, to start the first analysis. But meanwhile, we start using the first system combined with the old and the new to see if we can handle the case which is on our hand, which is to see where we're going to go. So the second spin-off will be on the energy side, most probably, and we have, hopefully, if you are correct, we'll set up a new spin-off in respect to the water. The scientist is Italian, I know him very well, and we'll see where we go with that one, because there's a lot of problem in Italy regarding water treatment. From the experience we received from TEPCO in Fukushima, we know how to start the processing of cleaning up water and land, which is a major problem in Italy. So this is the step which we are taking. Are there any questions? Do you see any questions, or shall we? Is there anything you have organized in the background you want us to see?
I don't have anything in particular, Mr. Cash, from anyone, other than there's a couple of comments from Mike Nazif here, one in particular, and I don't have any demonstrations or anything in particular. There is a couple of news items that might be interesting to discuss that I'd like to bring up. And there might be some volunteers that'll come up with something in the next little while here.
What are the comments or the news you have to spread with us?
Okay. Have a look here. What the heck?
I have to tell you that from as you've seen in the past couple of weeks, Armand and Marco started teaching to develop to the next steps that the knowledge seekers become the teachers because of the new technology. And tomorrow, Rick will take the place to teach. From his understanding, he's one of the longest knowledge seekers we know around the foundation with a practical application, not theoretical. So tomorrow your teacher is Rick and the way he works. And there are a couple of other people which Rick will organize that they become teachers that we go around the world. We don't focus only to be here, but as we are an international teaching organization, the teachers will teach from their spot. As I say, it's no use bringing everybody here to Italy for them to suffer to be away from their family and friends, just to teach the others for man to be free. This way we serve humanity and everybody stays in their place and they become the teacher from their own place. So from now on the teaching spreads around the world. We are not committed to one classroom. More or less even your garage become the classroom. Your knowledge and expertise counts, not the place where you stand to spread it. You can go and stand in the middle of the ocean and teach us. We still learn because it's most probably we have to learn something from the position. So from now on, you start seeing knowledge seekers becoming teachers, and they volunteer how to do. And this prepares us for international teaching without nations, without boundaries. So we work as one nation around the world, and we teach as one group. And this is how we had to train the first group. It's taken a year or so, over the past 5 years, and now we go to the next step, spreading the knowledge across without borders. So if we can share knowledge without borders, the next consequence of this with no nationality, and then this way we achieve what we planned. And the process starts from more or less this week. And our teaching goes to our favorite nation, Canada. I know the Prime Minister will love it, but we welcome him if he wants to join the teaching. I wonder how he will react. There's a message here. There's a massive algae bloom on the west coast because of the radiation from Fukushima. The water is turning red because of this bloom. We have the same thing here in Bari. It happens every 4 or 5 years, apparently. North of Bari, on the west coast of Italy, this is the same thing. And as we always say, we don't blame everything to Fukushima. So we must have had a Fukushima some time ago around Bari. I think we have our well-known hand here from Italians to explain to us how you get it here. Do you want to explain?
Coast.
Yeah, with the red algae. With the red algae you get.
Yes, we on the coast, in special, sometimes about the spring and so on. There is a problem with the yes, some kind of plant that grew up in the sea, and it's a problem for us because there is a kind of problem for the health, for the breath, the eyes, because sometimes people crying because it's a strong reaction to the inhalation of this. It's a kind of small particles that are in the air, and the person with the breath come into their body and create a great disease about the stomach and so on.
It's a red in color. It's a red in color.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you can't blame everything on Fukushima. Because one of the reasons why I know this, because when we were choosing a place to live, they told us, this side of the coast of Italy, from here to here, you don't choose a house because of the red algae. So you can't blame red algae because of the Fukushima. It's been there and it comes on the cycle of every few years. So it's no use connecting it, but well, if there is anything, we shall see. Going back on the teaching, as we have nobody to further make any announcements, there is something interesting. I kept this especially for today when our colleagues do not take any pictures from the classrooms. No, please. Whatever it is, we put outside. As you know, we have the through group. I will ask them to explain their principle to us this morning and how they see their work. But on the other hand, you see the lines. The lines comes from there, in the background here. It comes from the reflection of the car, I think. Yeah, done. Finished. Okay. I think it's important maybe as a gift and a shock to a lot of you. A system which we never discussed, and it was brought up and I dismissed it by knowledge because it has a significant application, but it has a huge restriction. People from Cell Group will understand this very quickly. When you have star formation, you're looking at in-depth. We spoke yesterday about the fifth system, which was brought in by the Chinese Cash Foundation guys, which could be a reactor, or you can use the body of the system. If you take this to a point and you bring your fifth system into the center of the three system, you allow a specific kind of motion without control, but with a lot of fast gravitation. So what it means, you have your base. This is the base reactors. They create a free plasma, which by placing the fourth one, you lift it up to allow the space. In a given condition, you can bring your fourth reactor into the center of the system. So what it means, we saw it with the Chinese. The Chinese brought up the reactor, and if you look, the fourth one was very close into an angle with it. This is the reason, and I heard Marco says, he says it flies again 100%. Because now you bring the fourth reactor into the center of the free plasma of the tree. You lose totality of the control, but you get a flatness in the structure. Control very hard, extremely difficult, but on the other hand, lift very rapid. And this is how the Chinese wrote it. When you look at the picture, because it's compact, even pushing the free plasma below for the tree, but it's so close, will come somewhere near, and Marco has it with what I call the shock absorber, but he couldn't literally press it in to tighten it. So what is known as a flat lift, it's applicable, but we've seen this with American triangle flight, but they cannot get it working properly because there's a problem in the construction. If the American government, the space technology, nano codes the internal structure, the system will fly very rapidly. But you cannot carry cargo. It has no capability. It's a fast travel. And once you reach this structure, you have to go into the cigarette spherical. Because these systems, once you get it right, have a tendency to fly in a vertical direction in respect to the Earth condition. It's used, if you remember when we spoke about the cylindrical flight system, it's literally used like this. The American military system you see in the picture of, they have a problem with the flight of it, we know. They have a structure problem. They're trying to still fly within the atmospheric condition. But what the American military hasn't understood is if they could nanocoat the whole craft internally with no physical wire control, they will fly into deep space very rapidly. They lose it very quickly because it goes flat up. That's why we put the fourth reactor, first of all, to give stability, secondly, to be able to create cargo passenger, deep space travel. So group, they use different magnetic material, and one of the problems is that when you condition to a matter, unless you can open your magnets to expand the magnet central core, you will have a problem in maintaining lift. You levitate because the material in your magnets brings the limitation of Earth gravitational magnetic field into the structure. Because it's not the gravitational magnetic field, but it's a composite maggrav plus inertia which affects the matter state. The limitation of their work is because they use matter magnet, where in this system you use a plasma which can fit into any gravitational magnetic field. So what we call a flat pancake system is applicable, and in so many ways they cannot control it, and it has a limitation on the control. They literally use it because of the problem with the jet propulsion rockets or jet engines as a directional flow. So if the guys here from Cyril join the American military and make them to understand this, their system is the next system to fly. So the merger can bring a lot of goods, and then at the same time takes off a lot of limitations. What I think is good to know as we are trying to bring the collaboration between the Cyril group and us is to understand what they do, that we all start from the same platform. If we can ask you to explain how your system works, how you use the magnetic system in your system. Yes, the floor is yours, because to be able to collaborate, we need to understand each other fully, and where we can merge and where we can take some systems in and out of the operation. I'll leave it with you. I'm going to sit down out of the way. You explain.
Well, the way I understand it, that when John Searle first developed his technology, it was all based on a series of dreams as a young man. And they were so precise that he felt it must mean something. So when he was around 13 or 14, as a young man, he started working as a electronics apprentice, and later a supervisor. And that gave him the opportunity to learn about electronics, electricity, electromagnetics. And he has his own unique way of learning, and that is that he is self-taught. And that's because he had a problem hearing. He couldn't understand what people were telling him. So he learned to observe in his own way, and consequently, he developed a way of developing technology that's really outside of the box for most individuals. In other words, he didn't go through a university. He was not trained like everybody else, and consequently, we have a different type of technology that normally would not have happened if he was trained in a normal university. And he thanks God for that. Otherwise, he would not be talking about the serial technology at this time. Anyway, he worked for the Midland Electric Company. He became a supervisor, but his workers were laughing at him because he had ideas that didn't make sense to everybody else. And his boss told him, you need to either be quiet or do it or resign. Well, he said he liked his job and he'd rather do it. So he was given the freedom and the opportunity to utilize all of the resources of the company. So he would go one department after another. And keep in mind that represents millions of dollars of capabilities that we do not have at this time, and we're hoping we will someday. So it requires a great deal of resources to redevelop the SEG, and that's been his problem. Now, going back to the 50s, what John had in mind is to develop a generator only. Well, he had it built in terms of parts. When he took it home, assembled it, and it actually worked. Well, it worked too well. This thing sped up, and then it went up to the ceiling. And he couldn't understand why it did that. He was very perplexed about it. He tried to grab it from the inside, and it almost froze his hand. So there's some kind of energy conversion taking place where ambient energy, and most of the energy that we feel is actually thermal, is converted into electrical power or currents, which is what drives the generator. I would say that the SEG is more of a motor, but a very unconventional one. As it works as a motor, it is converting ambient energy into electrical currents, which is what drives the motor. But we call it a serial effects generator anyway. But that's how it all started. He was just trying to develop a generator, but he had this nasty problem. It wouldn't stay on the ground. Eventually he decided, well, if this thing won't stay on the ground, why not control it? And the best way to control it was using the disc shape. I guess I can draw it out. Yeah. Sure. Now, this is before the days of UFOs and all that. These days, we recognize the disc shape as a flying saucer and so forth. But back in those days, in John's mind, he needed a shape that had an electronic function. And that's really all it is to control the generator's output, direct it, and have control systems at the same time. So really what we have is a shell that is suitable for the SEG, which is a circular configuration. So the generator itself is in this little area right over here. And the SEG is really a very large diameter ring, stationary ring with movable rollers. So it's really like any motor, you have a fixed part and another part that moves, a stator, rotor. In John's case, he calls it a ring plate and rollers. And as you can see, it's quite a large diameter. But what this shape does, it allows for the emissions of charges, electrical charges. And eventually they migrate back into the machine in this manner.
So effectively, you got a negative charge around the periphery. And by doing so, because electrons have to come from somewhere, you end up with a positive zone over here. It's really a double toroidal field. But this area can be used for a life support system. That's something that Johnson's never been able to do. He just hadn't had the resources. Everything he's done in the past was by remote control, especially with ham radio operators. He had a team of amateur radio operators. They were given instructions to do certain things at a certain time, and that's how they were able to control this device throughout the countryside in the UK. So when you hear about the Warminster sightings, it was really John Searle experimenting with this machine. It's just that once the media started hearing about these sightings, they turned it into a UFO theme, and then you got the UFO nutcases going all out. You know, it got to the point where, and you'll see this on some of our video clips out there. They actually had town hall meetings that was just filled beyond capacity because of the controversy that was creating. So that's so the biggest UFO flap, you might say, in the UK was due to the John Searle's activities, and they called it the Thing in Warminster. So he was tested between the 60s to mid 70s, and then it all stopped, and that's when the sightings stopped.
Rick, I think you have access to some data. We could see some of these machines which John Searle has flown. Can you dig it out from archives, even on the Google?
Sure.
We put some physicality to it.
Go to searlesolution.com.
Searlesolution.com.
Okay. Just be a minute.
All right. But again, there are two sides to this technology, and that is for transportation or energy. The solution to making the SEG into a generator is to keep the output under control, limit the output. Because the more power you take out of the machine, the colder it gets, because you're converting energy, and most of the energy that we feel is really in the thermal band, you might say, and we feel it as temperature. So always, what's that?
Explain why.
Why? At the quantum level, if you had a microscope, you can see that all of the activities are taking place. It looks like chaos. That's energy, and matter manifests energy in terms of thermal frequencies. It's just matters. That's the frequency that matter expresses energy mostly in.
More detail on the board that we understand.
More detail of what?
Can you explain it in more detail?
Well, let's get into physics. It's just that it's only natural that most of the energy that we feel, or that is all around us, is thermal. It's derived from the sun. It creates a thermal chaos, but that's okay. As organisms, we need it. But when it comes to energy, we need energy to be coherent and electrical for our appliances. Since all the electricity we need is all around us already. It's just that it's in a chaotic mode, you might say. What this technology does, it makes it coherent. And once you do that, especially in, let's say, a generator.
This is a
electrons are free to move. Then it becomes directed. That becomes a current. Other than that, it's expressed as temperature, and we just feel it that way. It's very common in nature. Heat is a byproduct in most activities that we do. So what we're saying here is that, if we go to technology, scroll up a little bit. Scroll up. All the way up. SEG technology. Let's go to John Searle's updates.
Page that we can see.
Inverse gravity. And that's one page that is dedicated towards the inverse gravity vehicle. And it highlights some of the history of the technology. We really don't highlight the IGV as a subject. We're focused more on the generator because that is the practical approach. To develop the IGV, it's very expensive. It probably requires millions. It really should be done by NASA. But our focus... What's that?
Why not by you?
Because we don't have the resources.
You don't need resources. What I would like for us to understand more is, can you turn what you put on the board, instead of looking at it from cross-section, draw it from the top view? How does the magnets look if you look at it from the top view in respect to the picture you show?
All right, it's better if I show you on the screen here. There's the IGV that John built back in the 60s and 70s. As you can see, he used a lot of volunteers at the time, but these were demonstration units built out of the cheapest possible materials to show that it can still be done that way. Anyway, let's go all the way up again.
Do you want to show a top view of the magnetic setup? Or okay, right at the top.
Yeah, keep scrolling. Well, if you want to see the generator itself, we have to go to another area.
Yeah. Generator.
Sure.
There's a view there of the...
Correct, right. And the SEG consists of three concentric rings. Those are the fixed parts. Like any generator, you have a stator. And
okay, just a second.
Are the rollers. There's three sets, the innermost, the middle, and the out. This motion picture here, or this animation, will kind of show you the step-by-step layering of the machine. And it does consist of 4 material layers in order for the SEG to operate. And each layer has a function. Together, they form a component, a reaction component, you might say. Now, I see that the videos are a little slow, probably because of the internet, so I guess we'll have to be a little patient.
Should I play the audio or just let the video play?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
You can see the 4 material layers being assembled. Next, the rollers, which consist of 8 sections or segments that forms a roller.
Rick, for a second, I was going back. It's okay.
Yeah, let me stop and go back over that little section there, perhaps.
Yeah, go back to where the layers come in.
Yeah.
First slide. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there's first.
This, can you explain to us? This
Right.
is,
The
the
white-
white is the
The white
first layer.
material is a dielectric. In this case, it's Teflon.
Okay.
And that's what allows the SEG to be a generator.
What's in the core? What's the black?
The black one is the element neodymium, or a rare earth.
It's
That's-
not magnetized. It's just a
It's just an element.
element.
No, it's not
Okay.
magnetized. A lot of people confuse it with neodymium magnets. No.
Yeah.
It's just the element, metal,
Does it
neodymium.
have to be?
It has to be a rare earth, because rare earth has special properties.
Can you
It
explain
has-
to us why?
It has loose electrons
Uh-huh.
that allows it to be extracted
Mhm.
as, think of it as a reservoir of electrons. Just like you have a reservoir of water in a dam, you got to have something to draw from. And as a consequence, when we draw electrons from it, it becomes positive. That's what makes the machine positive at the center. And then you got the dielectric material, in this case it's Teflon, that allows for the regulation of those flows. Otherwise, it's like a dam. If you don't have a structure to hold the reservoir, it floods out. And that was the original problem with the SEG. It would flood out, and it would go into the superconductor mode, and then it goes up to the ceiling, or it just takes off into space and gets lost. John lost 6 of them before he was able to control them. He would call them firecrackers for that reason. Very expensive ones at that.
What it means.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So,
I always wonder who's found them.
what's that?
I always wonder who found them. Who's got them? They don't know.
Oh, they're probably still floating around somewhere or just traveling. Who knows?
I've wondered a lot of times.
Maybe some alien finds them and wonders what the heck are these.
The
Okay.
next
Don't
layer
care.
allowed to roll
Can you let it run, please, Rick?
is the magnetic section. That's the heart of the machine.
What is the stop? It goes too fast. Stop,
You can
stop,
stop.
stop. Go backwards. Okay. After, no. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the gray is the magnetic material, a permanent magnetic material. That's that's the key to the SEG, is programming it with a particular waveforms, and that's what ferromagnetic is all about. We will provide the magnetization process for the SEG components, and that's what will make it active.
These 4 layers, what's the last one? Is it copper?
The last one is, yes, a conductive material. In this case, it's copper, oxygen-free, high-conductivity copper, or electronic copper. And it has a lot of functions. What I discovered, it develops eddy currents. It gives you a magnetic bearing. And so we've proven why the SEG can last forever. We can tell, at least beyond the lifetime. There is no wear. It's noiseless. Obviously, no fuels.
Is this section dynamic or static?
What section?
This section, what you built, the 4 layers.
It is fixed. It's a stator section.
It's a static section.
Yes.
Okay.
All of these layers are all together,
Glued
working
together.
as one. It's almost like glue, but it's under a little bit of a compression, you might say.
Could
Okay,
you,
now
could
it's
you
in
tell
the
me?
ring.
Can you tell me again what was before the copper? That the gray ring between the Teflon and
Well,
the copper.
It was a solid magnet.
John has experimented in the past. He had used aluminum before, but we're focused on copper because it's highly conductive. I mean, it'd be nice to use gold or silver, but
Expensive.
Well, I mean between the copper, between
somebody
the copper
contributes
and
it.
Teflon.
Yeah, but it's a layer which came between the Teflon and the copper. This is what it's asking.
That's the permanent magnetic
That's
material.
a permanent magnet.
A neodymium permanent magnet.
Yeah, it's a standard permanent magnet. What
So
are these little
That's
rings
the
made?
magnetized part. Is that
Yeah,
true?
Yes, it is. He's explained. This is a solid magnet.
What's happening next is it's assembling the rollers.
What are these rollers made of? Is it the same
The same
construction,
material, same
but
layering,
in a different elements?
except that they're smaller, and there's a series of 8 of them being stacked together to form a roller.
Why do you use 8?
John uses what he calls the law of the squares. Everything he does is based on that. But there is a physical reason for it. The sections allows it to twist a little bit. Rather than being a one linear rod, the 8 sections allows it to, it's like your spine. It allows you to adjust and twist a little bit.
But are they fixed to the ground or are they
Those are the
loose?
movable parts. Those are the things that spin around.
Yeah, but each column, is it fixed to a base or?
Nope. That's the beauty of the SEG. It is all magnetically
Positioned.
positioned and engaged. It automatically positions itself.
The 8 final position.
Yeah. All of the segments automatically stack together, and in turn, it is attracted to the plate. And once it runs, it orbits and spins.
Okay. Now, there is a question. This section, the first section, the static section, is it exit or what we call a north pole, and the rollers are reverse or the same polarity direction? You see
the magnetic field. The magnetic field is along the axis.
Can you stop? Both. Can you go backwards? Can you go backwards? Just stop. Rick, go back. What I'm asking is the 12 columns.
The 12 rollers.
So 12 rollers. Is it a north pole on the top, or you come over
yes,
the exit?
It's along the axis.
Yeah, and the solid big section is on the same direction too.
Same direction, but opposite polarities. So they're attracted.
Can you explain to us on the board
sure.
what it means?
So if this is the roller, this is the plate. If you have north here, you're going to have south here. South here, north here. So the flux is in a keeper mode. It goes from here back again. Consequently, it's attracted. And the sections are the same thing. They kind of work together. They all stack together.
Have you ever tried 6 rollers or 4 rollers and stuff? 8?
We could. We're doing it the way John Searle did it. John uses what he calls the law of the squares, and from his interpretation, you better have 8 of them and 12 rollers for smooth operation. I'm not going to experiment. We're trying to retrace the way he's done it in the past to meet our objectives. It's once we have developed a prototype and figured out all of the data that it takes to reproduce it consistently, then perhaps we can experiment and do it with 6 or 4 or whatever. But as far as I can tell, the SEG, its basic design, it's already optimized. I only see the only way to improve upon it is in terms of perhaps using different materials or different manufacturing processes. But it's already brilliantly simple. It won't get any simpler. It won't. This design will not change. Not now, not in the future, as far as I can tell. It's like trying to change the design of a piston engine. It is what it is. It's fundamentally the same as it was 100 years ago. All we can do is improve on it. That's all.
Now this is the second repeat.
Right. John has found that a series of 3 rings and rollers gives you the optimum power for the money.
What is made of now?
What's that?
The black one which is coming down now.
Again, neodymium.
And then Teflon.
Correct. That's the regulator, the dam that holds back the waters of.
And this places itself. You don't do anything with it. It just
again, it is a fixed. The large ring is fixed like a stator. So what you have is a series of generators: the innermost, the second, and the third. The innermost feeds the second, and the second feeds the third. And what you have is a 15 kilowatt generator. That's the smallest we can design using John's math. But from there, it's scalable up to anything.
How many rollers are in the next set?
22.
Okay. But this dictated naturally by the system. You have no say.
It's dictated by the physical arrangement, and that's what John specifies. The third ring has 32 rollers. All of these things have already been calculated. There is a lot of math involved. In fact, you cannot produce the SEG without math. So it's very precise mathematically when it comes to designing it. That's something that we already have in terms of spreadsheets. We can design these things. It's just that we do a lot of research on the materials and the magnetization process.
Would the larger unit have the same number of magnets, or would it have would it have larger magnets in the same number, or a larger number of magnets?
Well, for the SEG, it's the same arrangement.
Can you stop the video, please? Can you stop the video? Go backwards. Rick.
When it comes to SEG, what you do is just scale up with the same design and the same number of rollers. But with the IGB, that's a different machine altogether. It will require a lot more rollers because it's going to be a diameter that's going to be far larger, maybe 2 meters in diameter or more, depending on the
What
craft.
is the size of 3-set arrangement?
A 15 kilowatt generator would be about 1 meter in diameter, maybe 3 or 4 inches in height.
So you repeat the same process again, and then the third set of rollers comes in.
Correct.
And what is the one which is coming next to it? What are these square or rectangular blocks?
Those are pickup coils, conventional C-shaped electromagnets. That's how you tap energy from the generator itself.
Can you show us what it means exactly? How do they look?
Well, you'll see when the rollers start moving, it's the relative motion of magnetics across a magnetic core that allows you to pick up electrical power through electromagnetic induction. It's conventional electromagnetics.
So how does the rotation start in the system?
It starts once you get a chain reaction in terms of energy conversion.
It does it automatically itself?
No, you have to push it with your finger. Anything that starts
the position.
You're just going to get your fingers out of the way. Because what John has found, if it's done right, it'll turn on like a light bulb. And if you don't get your fingers out of the way, he's gotten black fingernails out of it. That's how sharp the response is. I'm not too worried about it as long as we know about it. See, John has already done the experiment. We're going to be inheriting a technology that has been developed, and that's an ideal situation for all of us. So really what he's doing is he's providing a gift, but it's up to us to accept it or not. Anyway, 3 sets of rings and rollers is what John has found to be the optimum configuration. You get the most power for the money or effort. But each section is an SEG unto itself. That's why our program is focused on the innermost only, which should develop about 2 to 3 kilowatts. But that's okay. All we're trying to do is prove the concept. After that, we can further develop it into a commercial version, which involves a set of 3 rings and rollers.
Do the rollers always go in the same direction, or have you tried counter-rotating arrangement?
According to John, it can go either direction, or you can just turn the machine upside down, and there you go. It's going the opposite direction.
No, I mean having one set of rollers go in one direction and the next layer go in the opposite direction, and so on.
No, they all work in one direction or the other.
Okay, thank you.
Part of the problem is with this technology, people don't know how to ask questions. We're very limited.
We know how to ask questions.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
we know exactly what to ask.
Okay. well, that's what we're waiting for. Bring on the questions, and so we got the answer.
There is something interesting. Going back on the picture on the board you put on. Can you as I said, show us you show a cross section with two magnets on side. Can you show us a top view of it if it cut through the craft? How was the
There are
layout?
some fixed pictures if you go through the website.
Can you go through the website? Because this is why we are here for, to bring a merger between the two. Now we understand the principle behind it. Rick, can you go? Where does he have to go?
Okay, let's get out of that animation.
Pardon?
Well, it starts with the SEG.
Okay, where do we have to
It's a
go to
generator.
see it on a page?
Well, first of all right. Well, there's a cross section there for you. A cutaway of the generator itself. You can see it consists of layering and 4 material layers as well as the segments.
How much does a set cost to make?
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're talking in terms of materials, $2,000 to $3,000 in materials. But to develop a prototype using facilities, personnel like John had in the old days, then you're getting into the millions. And that's the challenge. How do we cut the cost down? Because John was very fortunate in the sense that he was in the right place at the right time. And he was able to utilize all those resources. What we're doing is we're starting from scratch. And we're having to be everything in terms of engineering, from a machinist to electromagnetics, magnetization, administrative. Anytime you try to run a company, the cost is surprisingly high. So whenever you walk into a corporation, unless you run the company, it's hard to understand how much it costs, especially when you do R&D or technology. It really is expensive. So when we first started off, we knew that this was a $3 million program, but we felt, well, we're not going to get any support with just talking about it. We had to do something about it. So I decided to take the risk and start Searle Magnetics. It's based in California, and gradually build it up using a limited amount of support. And through that process, we gained support, but on a gradual basis. And what we found, it's very difficult to get investments in technologies that is not it's outside of the paradigm. But we're getting to our objectives gradually. We're keeping our options open for the level of investments that allow us to hire engineers, get everybody into position, and then we can go ahead and schedule a program and say, hey, we'll get this done in 18 months. Otherwise, we'll do the best we can on a gradual basis.
Can we see the flight system, how you use this in the lift, as we've seen him? He's flown over England.
Okay. This is a phenomenon that's not quite understood, but with the distinction between the SEG or the energy versus the transportation potential is operating mode. There's 2 operating modes. If you operate the SEG above the superconductive mode, in other words, keeping the temperatures above superconductivity, then you got yourself a nice, safe generator. That's why the SEG is limited. So if it's a 15 kilowatt generator, it's got conventional circuitry that will limit it to 15 kilowatts. You go beyond that, the temperature drops even further to the point where materials become superconductive. It's the superconductive mode somehow causes this magnetic anomaly. Yeah. So when we operate the IGV, it's in a superconductive mode.
So with the new GaNs and nanomaterials, we don't have this problem anymore because they are superconductors themselves. So freezing.
Well, it's not a problem as long as it's on your deck. If you want a generator,
yes, either
then
you look at it.
It depends on your operating mode. Now, the IGV is specifically designed to be operating in superconductive mode, and it involves 6 layers and not just 4. And it is yes, it is extremely powerful and effective, based on John's experiences.
So anything over 6 layers, it gives you the lift condition.
It's not because over 6 layers. It's because it's operating at a superconductive mode. It's just it's a more powerful configuration.
And that's the one you create a lift with.
Yes.
Can you, I'll go back, what I'm interested in to look at the picture of the lift system, how you set up your magnets.
Lift system. All right.
Where do we look?
We'll have to go back to the aerospace webpage that we had originally. So scroll up, select John Searle's updates right there.
Searle's update. Yeah.
IGV.
RGB.
Inverse gravity vehicle. It's the last option, the green option right there. That's actually a link. Click on that. There you go. And this highlights some of the, just very briefly, some of the, there's a sighting of that a painter made when he was viewing the IGV. If you scroll, go ahead and scroll up.
Scroll up. Scroll up.
Should I say scroll down?
Let's slow down. You're going too fast.
Scroll down. Scroll down.
Slow down. You go too fast. Okay. Go a little bit.
Okay, you want me to go down, right?
There. Carry on very, very slowly. That's wherever it is. That's London, I presume.
Here's the story from the Reverend who witnessed it and actually had a small generator provided to him. Keep going. Back in those days, his IGVs had landing pads that weren't retractable, and that's how we knew what versions they were. Keep going.
Keep going.
Scroll down. Here's a short video clip of one of those town hall meetings, and here's two cops who cited the IGV, and their impressions were correct. And there's what's called Demo 1 right there. Scroll up.
Scroll up.
Keep going.
Upward.
That gives you a perspective of the size of one of the remote control units.
Carry on. Somehow you keep on jumping back up again.
Okay, stop right there. Click on that picture right there with the green IGV and see if it's a motion picture.
Click on it, you see a motion video.
Double click on it.
Double click on it, he says.
Now, as far as John, is concerned, the structure itself was the easiest thing to make. He made all kinds. It's the generator that's very difficult to build, especially the IGV, especially when it's a 20-foot diameter or 9-foot diameter. It requires enormous industrial capacity that we're not even considering at this stage. We're focused on the SCP for that reason. We should have that animation working unless the...
I think he's still working on it. Rick, you're muted, so we can't hear you.
It's good for people to see it can fly. It is.
That animation will give you a cross-section, gradual build-up.
I can't get the work, but I can go through it gradually by manually working it. I can't get the full screen version either, so we have a little picture.
Okay, you need to share it again because it's not shared.
Oh, I'm sorry. Such a funky system.
You
Okay.
know, what John has found, that's good. What John has found that a structure that consists of 64 struts will give you this configuration. And it also encompasses the generator at the very periphery of the disk. Keep in mind, this whole structure has an electronic function. It's not just a shape. It allows for the emissions of charges along the periphery, which is sharp. And then you got the center area, which is relatively positive. It allows for the charges to go back in. Now, what's the point of all that? You're dealing with electrical charges, electrons. And what people don't realize is that electrons are able to absorb and emit energy. What the SEG is doing is going through an energy cycle. It's recycling electrons. And as electrons are emitted, the energy is harnessed, and then it's released back to the environment.
Okay, so I have a question about that then.
Sure.
My question would be is that if it's recycling electrons, does that mean that it's requiring the electrons in the first place? So if there's a plasma that, as in outside the Earth's outside the Earth's environment, would it still function because of the fact of the stronger plasma that is outside the Earth's environment? Would it be able to recycle that kind of energy?
It recycles electrical charges. Anything outside of it is simply repelled and kept at bay. So the SEG could operate underwater. It'll be actually a vacuum bubble, or if it goes through next to the sun, like these ionic discharges or plasma, that'll also be kept at bay. But the sun is an enormous source of energy. Remember, electrons are everywhere. They're a part of us. It's just like a dam. It uses water for energy. The SEG uses electrons for energy. Now, I've got to be more specific. It's not just electrons themselves, but it's the pairing of electrons. Once they're paired, it no longer behaves like an electron. It behaves like a photon. So the SEG operates with a different kind of electricity, not your conventional ones like you have in the office over here.
You know something, you use a language from maybe our point of view. You speak the same language as we do, but we use different materials. And I've been asked for years to speak to John Searle, and I never found a common ground to open a conversation. A number of people try to bring us with you or John Searle to find a solution. Listening to you today, it brings to a point that we are speaking the same language, different materials.
And that's what I found with John Searle, is that he's misunderstood. He's a little eccentric. But as engineers, we need to translate.
No. He's fully understood. This is your problem.
What I
The
found
problem is he's fully understood.
Yeah.
It touches a lot of financial assets. He's fully understood. I've seen his work with the American Navy projects in respect to lift.
Still, John has a different view on things because he's self-taught. And what we have to do as engineers or businessmen or whatever is to cross that bridge for him. We need to translate what he's talking about and fulfill the needs of this program. But he's definitely still in charge. And as far as we're concerned, he's the man who's leading the program.
It's just that everybody has their own role, or got to find their own role, and
I don't think
develop
there
a
is.
cooperative organization.
I don't think, in a way, your explanation, I hope, has brought a lot of understanding to the people around Cash Foundation. It's a beautiful explanation. What I'm still interested, because then I'll explain to you something, I'll go back on my question again. Can we look at the way you set up your magnets, the way you showed us the positive and negative? Because if, most probably, once we see it, then I'll explain to you the reason. And we have a lot of things in common, and this brings a lot of things into line. In Cyril achieving his dream of flight or the energy in a very rapid way. And in a way, you don't need to look outside for financing to achieve it. The Cash Foundation will support both projects. We are cash flow enough to be able to do this. But it's good for us to, as a Cash Foundation, as all the knowledge seekers, to understand how he's flown. And this is why I keep on going. I'm prepared to finance the Cyril projects in full, irrespective of the finances. But in a way, if it works the way we see it, to move from the matter point to a plasma point. And the Cash Foundation is prepared to finance it. It doesn't matter how much it costs, we'll meet your need. But first, before we commit ourselves to that level, is for us to see the gap and the bridge in how he's achieved it. And then only thing we need to do is to replace the material. All the things you showed us is exactly what we do. But in a way, bringing John Cyril Group or your people in working together with us will achieve the goal in a very rapid way. I think within the next 3 to 6 months you will achieve your flight and energy, because I'm prepared to financially support it. I'll dig into my own private reserve if it need be. But it's good for us to understand the process. You explained some materials and some positioning, which is exactly what we do. But the Cash Foundation people don't see it. And I've tried to bring it home a number of times. So what are we interested, I support, as I said to John on the line, to support this. Doesn't matter how much it costs. But in a way, as I said, we set up the Cash Foundation Research as a spin-off as of this week. I'm prepared to go with you with the next step as a space program or energy program. Doesn't matter if it's within here in the United States. And I'm sure we have a number of people around the world who will come and join us, because I think within days or weeks you can achieve both dreams of the John Cyril. But as I always say, we have to understand, as a Cash Foundation group, we have to understand the structure. What I'm interested in, we are interested in flight, not with the energy, because energy is a consequence of flight, flight is a consequence of the energy. All I want you to do, if you could be kind enough to show me a cross-section from the top. Just with a drawing, simple drawing. When you put there, how you see, how do you position these magnets?
All right, the magnets are self-arranging the way I just described. It's just when it comes to handling the power in the IGV, it requires a structure, like we just showed you over here, of 64 struts, so you can make a disc. You got to have that sharp peripheral edge, as well as the dome area for the energy to be recycled. And all that is under control by electronics and switching. 8 of the struts.
What I'm interested in,
Can you take? You like to?
So the generator would be right about there.
If we take this as black,
Okay, that's
We need some audio.
this is the structure here. Can you show us where this magnet sits here
yes.
in the side?
Obviously, that's the side view. This is the top view. The generator is one big, large circle near the periphery.
Is it one ring or is it still three rings?
It's still 3 rings, yes.
But in a larger scale.
Very long, very large.
Rick, can you go back on a video a few weeks ago, maybe 4 months ago? Was the guy Brian who came online and he showed the system? Mike. Okay. Can you go back to his pictures? This is when I said you can fly if you do it. He, at that time,
ring system.
if he can upload the picture, at that time, I explained to you, if you make 3 pipes or 2 pipes, and flow the material in each pipe. This is no different than John Cyril's, but taking the magnet, solid state matter, out of the equation. I think if we can manage internationally as a load of cash foundations or whatever, to make enough, even we have it here, we can do it, enough CO2, enough CuO, and enough CH3, and feed the pipes. Go back in the drawing, what we saw with John Cyril. You have the rings, and then you have the, what do you call it? The poles. Pardon? The rotating magnets.
The rollers.
Rollers.
Yes.
The rollers are your GANS material. They're highly energized. And if you can condense it enough, then you're already in the superconductive section. The mixture of the rollers, he makes 4 layers. You can mix the 3 states of the matter. That's why I say with John Cyril, setting up, it should be a matter of hours. We can even set it up in a new lab and test it. Do we have enough gas material?
We have a stash. Depends for what you want to use it. You have to decide.
So, in fact, because of the roller, we have a dynamic roller. What you produce, or what you do, is something which, before you load, you have to understand. He gave you a lot of information. He gave you precise information, but as usual, water on the back of the duck. They have achieved left. They have achieved a structure. Go back to what he said. He gave you every detail, but he's in a schizophrenic condition of the matter. You lot are in a schizophrenic condition of plasma. The reason they have a problem, they can produce the whatever power generator with less than a few dollars. They need no support. I'm prepared to finance this into its production because it makes sense. I have no problem. I guarantee all the financial support you need if we collaborate in a direct way the way it suits both of us. Don't forget, a lot of people don't know how much I'm worth, but I have a lot of things put in the back pocket. So that's what I said. To build up a center in 3 days needs a lot of money. You can't do it. You've seen the same as here. But when the time is right, when you see right people, I'm prepared to back it. And this is worth backing. Yeah, go backwards. Go back to the rings. These are the rings. If you've seen this. He has seen it. These are the same processes you have. Go, you see,
The idea he had from
sir, what we said, transfer it. So, if you listen what he told you, you have everything you need in your hand. These little symbols are your key. Go back to all the teaching we've done. Look at the plasma. Entry. They call it positive, negative.
It is a type of plasma outside of this area right here. So this thing at night would have a halo or a glow. It would even be as bright as light. It depends on how intense it is. So it's unavoidable, this emissions of lights around the craft. It's sort of like a plasma around it.
Yeah, we call it bright light in the sky. But the problem is you're limited to the matter state with the solid magnets you use. Here, if you load your layers in a right order, what is negative to you? Going out or coming in? When is negative?
What is negative? Well,
is the field flow outside or coming in?
Well, it flows from inside to out.
Outside. Okay. So you need the weaker of the three in outside. You have the mass. CO2 is 42, 44. That's 12 plus 32. Cu is 60 plus CO2. We call it even 16 is 76. CH3 is, he says, why do you put 17 all the time? I put 17, one day I'll explain to you. But still 17. Why do I use 17? Because it's always on magnetic pole. It's a free plasma flow. So if you look, you load CuO in the middle outside ring, CO2, and CH3, you achieve what you have. It's a sequential loading you do. And then he has 3 layers there. He uses a 3-layer. You have a plasma, you have a dry, and you have a nanomaterial. So we have the same as you have. Flying the system at literally a few $100, we can try it while you're here. And I welcome you to the new center. We give you the lab, we get the people on the table, we have the material, we can test it.
Certainly open to it. Okay.
Pardon?
We're certainly open to it. Looking forward to it.
You're welcome.
Do you still need me over here? Sure.
Pardon? Yes, yes, we still got some learn from you. You're a very good teacher. I'm still a student. So what you do exactly what they do. You create a flow that way. And because you need to create a force, the flow to come back in. Otherwise, the field spreads. This, if you look, is exactly in a small version the reactors we have in the cores. The cores are loaded in a structurally different way. And what you do, they created a ring. You can create a ring, or create a ring and put one reactor on the top that the flow is vice versa to the same. So you build your dome. And with the nanomaterial, if you put nano coating inside, the field will stay constantly inside the control position. I think if we push the two masters to do a lot of finger working, we have the pipes, and we have the material, maybe we can see good news while you're here. Yeah, we have the facilities not very far, and we have enough material. If the paymaster allow us, is that okay with you? We can dig into your resources. What it means, we have to delay your process slightly. No problem, because I think we had enough material for one or the other. But you perfectly explained, and in a way, we have taken the step to move from a matter state into the plasma state. And this way, you have no limitation. Yeah, so because here in the core, we have a problem of positioning. We do not know how to reverse the loading. To reverse the loading dictates gravitation. You land. You load it this way, it creates lift. They haven't learned yet, very soon. But we can try, and I'm pretty sure we have a lot in common to add to it. We even have a plant pots which can be used. Am I correct? We have a system, it looks like a UFO, but it's a plant pot upside down, fully lined, nano-coated. All we need is to open it and replace the rings instead of the motors, and you have all the pumps to do the testing. We can test it within 2-3 days while you're here.
So, look forward to it.
So, teach us more. There's a lot to learn. Carry on.
I guess whatever else I need to say here kind of depends on the questions. I don't know. Should we call this a Q&A session next? Does anybody have questions? Anything further to talk about? Okay.
You have another 2 hours to fill in, so
when we talk about
go ahead.
There are questions, definitely. If you want to say something first, you go ahead, and otherwise there are a series of questions that people will have.
Yes, in different channels, live stream and whatever we have. So they read the questions and they put it to you. There's no problem. But we answer the question of your colleague.
All right, I'll answer John's question.
Yeah, please.
Priority number one.
What was the question?
Yeah. When it comes
talk about magnetic waves.
When it comes to the magnetic materials, we're not talking about your standard north-south magnets over here. We're talking about a technology of programming these permanent magnetic materials with particular frequencies in a particular fashion that allows for the phenomena that I've been able to verify experimentally, and that is you can impress waveforms on magnetic materials. In other words, not just north and south. Because in the industry, all they do is zap it, and you got your north-south. That's all there is to it. With the serial technology, you have to really finesse it and get your timing correct in terms of frequency, the materials, and what you'll end up with is waveforms on the rollers.
Clean the board up.
So, sure. Just the bottom half. So if this is the stator, your general north, like this, north-south, so it is still oriented along the axis magnetically, but there are waveforms involved. How should I say? And what it does, it creates variations. I have a machine that actually scans the surfaces and displays the waveform on it. It's one of the first things I was able to prove 10 years ago about this technology, that this phenomena does take place. I never heard of it. I couldn't find any books. I just had to use faith and use my technical abilities to reproduce it. And it does exist. It's reproducible. So even though we're magnetizing it along the axis, we got these waveforms going on. And you need that for the SEG to be dynamic in the way that it is. So with the SEG, you got sine waves on the stator plate, but also on the rollers. And if it's done correctly, the magnetics will match like planetary gears. They'll become in sync. What you end up with is a roller that not only orbits around the stator, but also spins without touching the surface. And that's what makes it a frictionless machine, noiseless machine, and it should last, as far as we can tell, indefinitely.
Can you go more into detail that they can understand, or we can understand totally? What difference does it make?
What difference make is you got little pulsations, and not just a normal north-south poles. So the north and the south have little waveforms on it, little variations. Those are frequencies. So when it's magnetized, those frequencies that we program into it, the machine runs, in effect, it expresses those frequencies back when it's in operation.
But how can you utilize it except keeping the separation or the flow?
How can you utilize it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Except
because the waves in the plasma, the way you speak about, can be utilized. You can compress it with a magnetic field, or you can
there's a
tap it.
Tap it. We don't tap it. We allow the generator to function with that programming. In other words, the rollers will react to the plate. And there'll be a chain reaction that allows for relative motion. The rollers move. But when it comes to tapping, that's what the external electromagnets are for. As the rollers pass by, they induce a electromagnetic induction, you might say, into your windings, and that's how you tap energy from it as a generator. You can have up to 32 around the periphery. You take that energy, you rectify it, you end up with a DC voltage. You put it through a conventional AC conditioner, and what you have then is standard AC voltage, whatever your requirement is. In other words, instead of a power conditioner being for a windmill or a solar plant, it will be the SEG.
I think the terminology I use as a tap, it means if you knock on it with a magnetic field, not tap off it, the energy. Because with a plasma, if you make like impulses of magnetic field, you see the plasma will wave. You have a wave in it because as it absorbs it.
The output of this machine really is a pulse DC. The end result is
a pulse DC.
Yeah. So we allow the machine to do whatever it does. There is an energy cycle taking place. It really is an open system by design. Open because The generator, the central area is the positive terminal. The peripheral is the negative. And what's in between? It's the Earth, the atmosphere. That's why it's an open system. And that's really what you need in a generator if you want unlimited energy. You need to tap energy from the environment. That's where it's all at. If it was just a battery, all the energy is just in the battery itself, and once that's depleted, it's over. Whereas the SEG works like a hydroelectric dam. Look at what's happening to the water or the liquid. You're not burning it, smashing it, or anything. You're just taking some of its inherent energy, releasing it back to the environment, and guess what? Eventually ends up back in the reservoir. That's an open system, an energy cycle. We continuously harness energy. It's just that with the SEG, we're doing it with the electron. It has that capability, like all matter, to absorb energy. We harness it with the SEG, and then release it back to the environment. Eventually, it went back in the generator, just like a dam does. So that's the theory operation in terms of harnessing energy. Or if we want to tap energy from the generator itself, we use these electromagnetic cores. It's that relative motion that allows us to tap into it. Otherwise, you let the machine do whatever it does. And the more power we take from it, unlike a conventional generator.
Interesting. What you're producing 10 kilowatts, 15 kilowatts. Mm-hmm. You should be able to commercialize it to finance your other projects.
Definitely. It's the R&D stage. It's the most difficult. That's what we're experiencing right now.
What is the problem with R&D?
R&D is expensive.
No, I mean, if you already managed to tap into 15 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, mm-hmm. It should be easy to start a process of manufacturing.
It should. Once we're in a manufacturing mode, it's like any other machine. You just get your assembly line all set up and just produce.
Yeah, what I'm saying, if you achieve 10 or 15 kilowatts, it should be easy to.
That's a commercial home version that could power your home easily.
At what cost? How much can you operate it for?
At what cost? I leave that up to marketing to determine that. It's the market that determines the cost of the machine, but it'll cost less than a conventional generator, and it has all of these other advantages.
Why don't you market it?
Because everybody wants a product. I'm not a marketing individual either. Maybe we need somebody who knows how to do this sort of thing. But it's been my experience that everybody wants a product before they want to invest in it. Nobody wants to do nobody likes the cost of R&D, and that makes the situation pretty tough in terms of business.
Okay. What are the questions, Rick?
Okay, just a second here. I'll get the questions lined up. Well, Mike, who we showed us pictures before, he does mention he'd love to collaborate with Cyril to incorporate plasma tech if possible. Let me see. Mike mentions, don't they use neodymium magnets that have an infinity loop trinity magnetic printed on the element?
Can you repeat it?
He says, don't they use neodymium magnets that have an infinity loop trinity magnetic printed on the element? Does that make sense to you guys, or is that...
Again, there's always this confusion about neodymium. When we talk about neodymium, it's the element neodymium as a solid metal component, the innermost layer. The magnetic material could be any kind of material that works for us. It could be ceramic, alnico, or this neodymium-borne iron materials being utilized these days. But we just like to use the term permanent magnetic material so that people won't get confused.
But it's not, there's no printed design or other manipulation of the neodymium in itself.
No. It is a reservoir of electrons. That's what the metal is, as far as the SEG is concerned.
And I would ask, or like to know more about, you mentioned that it's a reservoir for electrons, but it actually becomes very much positively charged during the process, correct?
Yeah, when you extract electrons from the metal, the neodymium becomes positive. But the nice thing about the element or rare earth is that it has an effect called electron capture. It'll capture electrons from the atmosphere, and that's how you complete the cycle.
Okay.
Other questions?
Here's a question from Walter. When the when the SEG is running, how do you stop it when you wish?
Well, you don't want to wish to stop it because when it operates, it's the excess of electrons around the device that protects it from oxidation or deterioration. You never want to stop it. If you're not drawing power from it, it'll simply idle at a certain speed, and it protects itself from the environment. Most of you are probably not aware that corrosion is really due to the loss of electrons. So if you want to prevent corrosion, you got to have the machine existing in an excess of electron environment. So the SEG will stay looking as good as new as long as you leave it operating. You never turn it off if you can help it.
Okay, that's a good answer. I suppose if it was going through the roof, you might want to shut it down a little prematurely.
Yeah, if it goes through the roof, you violated its warranty somehow.
Yes.
You lost your machine.
You might violate your warranty, your own human biological machine, too. Okay, there's another question in the live stream. Rick, can you ask if electromagnetic software can be used to simulate it? Have they used any such software?
Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the positions that we're seeking for is a skilled individual that'll just focus on electromagnetic simulations because the device is so complex and there are so many electromagnetic factors coming into play, physical and also quantum, that we need the software to try and simulate and help us understand what is going on with all those complications. And the amazing thing about the SEG is, despite all of these complex interactions, they all work together to produce those results. I see the SEG as an incredibly brilliant device by virtue of its simplicity, as it seems to be from its configuration. But electromagnetically, it's very sophisticated. It's a difficult machine to build, and you better get your factors right because it works on a narrow band. Outside of that, it won't function. Is there another question?
Just a second here. Mike is asking a number of questions. Maybe we should just have him say something. He's here. Maybe I can unmute him if he's available.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hi, Mike.
Hi, it's a pleasure.
It could be better if you speak because I've got so many questions here that I'm not sure which ones are merging into which.
Well, just like everybody else, autocorrect is messing with me. tonight. It's an honor, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. Mr. Kesh, Searle guys, all the knowledge seekers. This concept that you guys see, the MagGrav inspiration, came off of the Searle effect generator. The John Searle has been a personal hero of mine for a number of years, and it's very disheartened to hear the story of everything that's going on throughout all of his research and everything. What I was talking about as far as the printed signal, I guess. If you guys, I don't understand it. We'll just go back to that later. The drawing that you have on the board with your lines, okay, where you say you've got your north and your south. If you draw a line through the center of it, you would get alternating current, okay, positive and negative, where it goes from positive to negative between your magnetic rollers. Okay, each time that you switch that, what I visualize is that you're creating a twinity, TWINITY, where it's magnetically bonded. You've got 8 of them in the first ring, 22, and then 32. And then the overall fields that you see, where you have your positive and negative on the top of your disc, and then a positive and negative on the bottom, okay, where your toroidal fields were combined. Okay, if we're looking at things with positive and negative, that would create the twinity, okay, which is the stable form, I believe, of hydrogen. I can stand corrected on that. That'd be fine, but that's just the way I visualize it.
It's an interesting point. The SEG is actually a very large atom. It is fundamentally the same in terms of function in a lot of ways, because you have rollers. Well, I don't have a picture on it, but think of the rollers as electrons orbiting around the nucleus, and the ring being the nucleus. And then you got a sine wave or a frequency that puts the electrons in synchronous orbit. In fact, John calls it a ruddy big atom.
Right, and it's exponentially bigger. It can get exponentially bigger. What we're trying to incorporate, or what I was trying to incorporate with this design, was putting 2 Searle effects generators together like a sandwich, facing the same polarities.
John says you can't stack them together, and they work just fine, and that saves space. So in theory, you can have a rack where you can stack one after another, and to scale up your power output capabilities. So we do envision that. So if you got a house that requires more than 15 kilowatts, well, we may have a cabinet or a shelf position where you can just slide in another SEG there.
Right. What I'm talking about is converting the, I've already, based off of my design, I created neodymium GaNs. Okay. And we had copper GaNs, copper oxide GaNs. I believe those were the 3, and then CO2 added to this reactor. But what I'm talking about is we're going from the actual metal of neodymium to the atomic structure of the neodymium. Does that make sense? We're breaking it down into the atoms and using that instead of the actual metal itself to create the same effect, but it'll be 1 trillion times more powerful.
I'm not sure. Like I said, all we're focused on is redeveloping the SEG the way John has done in the past. But once we're totally successful with that, I think we can experiment with some of these concepts. Just that right now, it's risky business trying to experiment outside of what has been done in the past.
Well, the reason why I was suggesting it is because and I can make this at home for a few dollars versus a few $1,000s. If I had all the equipment like you guys, you're saying you got to have specific measurements and things like that. But we're going from the matter state to the plasma state using the same concepts and the design of the Searle effect generator. So it's the same thing, okay, except you don't have to spend $10,000 or $15,000.
What do you need to do it?
Access to, I guess, if I use the same materials, it would be Teflon tubing. It can go the same size as the current Searle effect generator. So the diameter, or not diameter, but the circumference of the 3 rings in Teflon tubing, if that's what you're going to use, neodymium GaNs, copper oxide and copper GaNs, and CO2. Those are the materials that I believe that you would need in order to create it. And the collector, or you've got the coils, the electromagnetic collector coils on the end for your power generation. So I can't think of anything else right offhand. I haven't drawn it up for several months, but I can.
Where are you located, Mike?
I'm in Texas.
You got a bunch of Canadians and Americans.
Another thing that we could add, that's been created since then is possibly graphite GaNs, and to replace the neodymium. But I'm not sure about the whole atomic structure of graphite versus neodymium and all of that good stuff. That's where the Searle guys would come in, and you at the Spaceship Institute.
When it comes to neodymium, you can replace it with anything in the periodic table that shows rare earths. And
do we have any about
Japanese
elements guys online, the Chinese guys, that they can contribute towards more rare earth materials?
Oh, they own it. They have a monopoly.
Yeah.
And they're doing it on purpose. They call themselves the Saudi Arabia of rare earths, or neodymium specifically.
Yeah, there's only one mine here in the United States for rare earth.
Neodymium is a key component in a lot of the clean energy technologies. So, but it was intentional, and now the world is dependent on China for that material.
Yeah, I'm aware how they've done it. In a way, it goes back to part of the teaching we've done. You don't need the material. You can create a mixture of materials to give you that effect. As I said, you could produce radioactive materials by the right mixture of the gases. You mix the CO2 with copper oxide and another nanomaterial, you will get the same effect as the material real earth you're looking for in magnetic field flow. With the game of plasma is that you're not bound to a matter state. You create the property of the matter state in the plasma. This is where the beauty comes from. Can you find out what's in the medium atomic weight, please? So we can create 60. A combination. Pardon?
It's 60.
Just let him come up. 60. It's just below. Number 16 is 144. 144 is massive. Well, that's a messed up. Okay, so it's very easy. With the plasma, the beauty we have now, which you don't have in the solid state. Now we can do. You want 144? 144. CuO is 60 plus 16 is 76. 144. So you got to go the nearest to it. Then you have a CO2. That's 76 plus CO2 44
Mr. Kesh,
plus CH3.
Mr. Kesh, I think,
yes.
it's 76 plus 76 there should be 152 rather than 142.
Yeah, sorry about that. Somebody wrote somewhere I can't add. It's a very good thing. It means I'm not human. That's good news.
You're not an alien after all.
They've written somewhere he can't even add. So yes.
Yeah. Adding plasmas are different than adding numbers.
So you're looking for another 110, 126. You have 76, 44, 17, 7, 2, 637. You're not very far. We can do maybe add water. H2O, which is 16, 18. You're not very far. So in one of the tubes, you need to have a mixture. This is the beauty with the plasma. You don't need to go. The Chinese lost the game of, what do you call it? Rare earth material control. Now with the plasma, you produce what you need. It's the property of the field which counts. This is why when they do Raman spectroscopy, they see a combination of materials fields, but a property of one in infrared spectroscopy. This is one of the beauties of the plasma. You want to get out of the hand of the Chinese, you play the guns, the material, you get what you want. So we can create that condition in one of the 3 pipes. So it's time to play the game in a different way.
Yeah, they call it rare earths, but they're really not that rare.
It's a rare material.
It's just that it's
financially
and hazardous-wise, it's financially it's difficult to process because it's toxic and in some ways. And the Chinese has just built up the infrastructure for it. And whenever there's new mines, like there was one in near our area. It was owned by Corp. It's only an hour and a half from our location. The only mining site for neodymium in the United States. Well, eventually they ended up selling their materials to China. And it just made sense to them.
It is a process of separation, which is costly.
And what they do is that they process the material. And, you know, it's kind of hard to beat the Chinese when it comes to labor and all that.
No, because the actual separation of material in a way that you separate rare earth material in a theoretical way, because the whole process started with a company in Belgium. It's called, they actually financed part of the work of the Keshe Foundation with SEK. I can't remember the name, but pardon? No. Comes to my mind, I will explain to you. And I know these people some 20 years back before the work of the with the nuclear material. Anyway, they devised the system. It's in south of Antwerp. And then somehow somebody in South Korea paid a good money to one of the directors, and he literally took all the technology to South Korea. No, 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 no. Yeah, it's part, but no, this process is for metals, rare earth metals. And then the Chinese took the technology from the South Koreans. They paid a little bit of money, and they got it. It involves a lot of technical heating and chemical processes. And what they do, they burn it and they blow it, they burn it and they blow it, they chemically burn it and they blow it. They do a lot of things with it. And step by step, rare earth materials gets collected in different parts. It's not so labor intensive, it's scientifically expensive to run some of these processes. I've been to that plant for them, because how we did it is, when I used to have my business jacket, we found out when the Eastern Bloc opened up that there were a lot of metal factories in Poland, in Czech Republic, in different parts of Russian Empire, or when it was USSR, that when they did all this steel manufacturing, the dirt on the top, they cleaned off to get to the steel, that dirt has huge amount of rare earth material. When it was created, everything is in there, gold, silver. So we started bringing these blocks into Belgium to assess, and we found out it's a huge amount. How the Chinese actually get most of the material, they went back to their own refineries, and they start cleaning up what they call the mess. And in it, there is everything you can imagine. So one of the biggest problems we had in Eastern Bloc to bring these things into Belgium was, first of all, these are solid blocks. You can't even cut into them. There's mountains of them. And then when you cut into them, they weigh a ton to ship. They're not easy things to do. So now what the Chinese do, the steel manufacturing process, it's like cooking the meat, the dirt comes up, now they take it straight away, the process is much easier to do. And it's Minier. The name of the company is called Minier. It's the only company in the world who has this technology, because they financed the first research of the Coca-Cola bottle, which they wanted to see what it is with the SCK, with nuclear, Belgium Nuclear Center. They financed part of our project for the assessment of the material, of the nanolayers on the copper. So nowadays, you don't need to rely on rare earth material. You can create the gas of the lower order and mix it. And if you go in book number 2, I think it is, you see it. They don't mix. They stay separate, but they give a total property. It's an alloy of gases. So we can create, if you want, in the first circle, that property near to it. We just mix it. Now we have a number of gases which we can get to any combination.
And the way the SEG is designed, it's designed by particular numbers that John uses. It's called the law of squares. And that's his way of taking energy, taking energy from chaos and reorganizing it into something that's coherent and uniform. So he would take elements, and really it doesn't matter if it's solid or gas, of particular quantities, in those combinations, those particular figures, and you end up with a transformation from chaos to something orderly. And then you become, it's like comparing white light to a laser. White light is all the bands, but if you do it coherently, you end up with a particular frequency. Then it becomes very effective and efficient. So you may say the SEG is a coherent technology. It no longer exists like we do in a state of chaos. It is resonating onto itself, and in that sense, it becomes an effective generator or transformer of energy from one form to another.
Yeah, but now there's no limit on rare earth if you're looking for the property of the matter, not physical content.
At this stage, we're not concerned about the materials because we're at an experimental stage. We have no problem getting it. Well, it's expensive, but we can still get it. It's when you go into the manufacturing stage, especially when the market sees there's going to be a big demand for it. Obviously, the cost of it goes up, and then you have to wonder are there going to be restrictions? Who has a monopoly on it?
Mr. Kesh, there was a drawing that was sent in just at the last minute today for the something else beside the workshop. It was in the forum. It's called the Saturn reactor, and I'd just like to show it now because I think it demonstrates the concept, what you're talking about in a way. This is by Franz Vassal, and he shows these GANs-filled rings. Strangely enough, this exact topic that we were talking about, and he shows them as copper pipes that are filled with the GANs, and in this case, rotating in opposite directions. So there's a center core and two rotating rings that rotate around. You can see the sort of basic system, the way it's set up there, could be quite actual.
Can you hear me? This is what we're just discussing offline with Marco. And he said the building just next door sell the pipes. I said, go and get it because the Nike company shows it. Marco will be doing his shopping lunchtime pipes because this is exactly what we talk, and now we see the picture of it. One of the ways to do it, but to do this, as I explained to Marco, you have to nano-coat the tube internally. You just don't fill it with the GANs because then it creates a certain fraction of friction. You got to nano-coat the tube internally. I'm sure Mark Arman's going to love doing this. And then what I was just explaining to Marco is we need pressure pumps to dictate the speed of the rotation. Because when you put these pipes the way Mike has, you don't have only magnetic field flow in that direction, you have the magnetic field flow in this direction too. Don't forget, you're not dealing with a solid state matter, you're dealing with plasmas, which to bring, as is said, chaos into order, you have to create certain directional flow, and your other one does the other way. So you can exchange material or add and take out. Remembering that nano GANs state never mixed, always stay separate. You have to find a way to separate them rapidly. You can create in any direction of the three flows. So this is possible, but you have to nano-coat it that you have no friction. And if you want, you can nano-coat the outside too. Then you create the direction of flow. You can strip it. One of the things you can do, if this is your pipe, the way we spoke about the drip, and Armin and Marco were trying to explain, is you can nano-coat the side of contact, not the total pipe. So only at this point on the pipe, you have flow field. So you can direct the flow because you create a nano condition. These are the games you can play with nanomaterials and nano-coating. But I'm sure within a matter of short time, we can put a set together. We have more or less all the facilities. It takes a couple of days to nano-coat it. And maybe before you leave back to state, we can run tests here to the validity of the, what they call the experiment, because we have everything here to support it.
Okay. I'm looking forward to seeing all that. No. Like I said, we're here to...
You're back in the lab. You're not going to be here. You'll see less and less of us. And we have all the pressure pumps and everything you need to support a test very rapidly, in a matter of days. And then we can test the Cyril's criteria in a gaseous state, in a plasma state. And if it works, it'll be fantastic to see what the next step is going to be.
Well, I can visualize if we're going to use gases, we're going to have to utilize the principles of the law of the squares as John does. In other words, a precise quantity of
We give you the
materials.
pipe, we give you the plant pot, you tell us how much you need. That's your job. We have a bunch of theoreticals here, and we know how to use a spanner to tighten. We've got a couple of engineers. We have a Westinghouse man here who can give you a blood of hand if you need to do it. And there should be no problem.
All right.
Yep.
You still need me here?
Pardon?
Am I done here?
Yes.
Okay.
Pleasure if you want.
I'll leave the platform up to you.
Thank you very
Fantastic.
much indeed. I'll have your microphone. A strange thing for a lot of you, if you are familiar with world of science, is very simply how you can share knowledge without patents. So openly put, we have no fear in receiving knowledge and putting knowledge back. Not closing the doors and just talking, you don't speak to no one. And this is how the new technology will go. The more and more scientists and organizations join the same ethos that we can all get benefit by it, we'll find out patents and control of governments runs out of energy, because when people are willing to share so openly, then it brings a lot of trust. We see it, I mean, even explaining or putting pictures on of what we can do. If it was 18 months ago, there had to be a lot of, what do you call it, non-disclosures, a lot of agreements. We never talk. It's here, it's on the table, it's done. And strange enough, I'm going to show you something very interesting, which we hope you will see in the coming days. It will shock a lot of you, but in a way, what they are trying to produce power, the same production of power as they produce a DC current flow. I'm correct? In your system, you produce DC flow. In your system, you produce a DC flow, not an AC flow. Pulse DC. So you can use a pulse DC if you know what it means, even for heating. There's a company in Holland which is specialized in heating plates using DC and pulse DC. And this is an investment done by the King of Belgium through his son, because Wim de Grave, what we call the son of the King of Belgium, owns the company because they know what cash foundation is bringing in as a DC flow. So they bought a company on a standby that they can use. You can go to the registration of companies in Holland and you find Wim de Grave owning the company as a director of DC flow from plasma. So you understand how much technology is ready on account to go, because they understood the technology control. So you see, we can share knowledge without borders. And it's strange enough, it's the Americans who bring it and the Canadians who put it on the table. And the Iranians who organize it to be together. It's very strange. Unheard
It's
of.
beautiful.
Science has no barriers. Science has no borders. And if you can share this technology this way, all of you, whatever you've seen, with what is going to be shown in a very recent time, in a very, very short time, is going to shock you. But the person who brings it on. I'm going to show you. I know the technology. I've used it. But it's fantastic the way
is going to come up. We don't disclose anything anymore. We just like today put it on the table. And I'll tell you one thing, there's going to be a lot of shocks in a lot of governments in the next 7 to 10 days or 2 weeks. Huge shocks. They are trying to produce DC current. I can demonstrate to you, but I always say credit has to go to the people who've done the job. You'll see it will be demonstrated, and within hours, the power supply companies around the world will collapse like nothing from power supply if people know how to use it. And this is part of the peace program, sharing knowledge the way they do and the way we spread. And hopefully, while we do the operation in the labs, we put everything online. People can see the collaboration, how it's done, how we do, how they do. That there is nothing hidden, we don't do things behind and then we come out. The lab facilities have we have all the internet facilities even to do it here. But you can see how we collaborate. I think it has to be that way. Failure is not a shame. Trying it, succeeding or failing, that's the important thing. The collaboration which counts, not the outcome. So we know how to, whatever they decide mathematically, they make a decision and we supply the technology. Is that good enough? I said, you make a decision what you need and we supply the technology to support it. Our system is so sophisticated that you cannot imagine. It's a plant pot, fully nano-coated. You know what a plant pot is? A pot is a plastic pot. You put plant in it, fully nano-coated, plate of the bottom of the plant pot, fully nano-coated. There's a ping pong balls inside it. We take it out and we put the copper pipes in it. Immediately you get all the fields back. Is what you had with John Cyril, with your spikes in your side. We have a spike, but it's just the curvature of the plant pot. So we show it to you during the lunch. You decide how you want it. We make it the way you want it. You feel it the same you want it. And if it means some people don't go to sleep tonight, we make as much gas as possible to feed in the pipes. You can increase the power through a composition or reduce the pipes, the strength of the field. Are we for a game, boys? We have enough cans. We are in a hurry. They're going back in a few days. The thing is here, in the new lab, there is no time limit. Here we have a time limit of 6 o'clock. In the lab, we can work anytime you like. So, thank you very much. And if there is any other question to answer, are the Canadians asleep or awake? I think they all go for maple leaf syrup. Are you there, Rick?
No. We're hanging in for...
Pardon?
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Yes. Right. Yes. We've been here waiting very patiently and watching the interesting presentations. I think it's great.
So, are there any questions?
There's a couple of questions in terms of there's a question like, what is the operating RPM of the SEG?
Operating rotation. What is the RPM?
Yeah, the operating RPM. Are they still there to answer questions?
Yes, we have much time. No problem. I'm the sound man today.
Yes, based on John's past observations, the idle RPM is about 2,000, but then it speeds up as more power is drawn from it. There's really no limit to the RPMs. It's just at minimum about 2,000.
the outer magnets don't does the distance between the central and the magnets increase with the RPM, or does it tend to stay about the same distance?
No, the rollers just find an orbiting position, so it's really just 2 millimeters from the surface, and it maintains that position.
Strange enough, the gun's optimum, or the maximum, what it gets to is maximum is around about 2,000, 2,500 feet.
Mm-hmm.
When
That's what I was going to note, yeah.
we replace the reactors, it's around about 2,000. We set our rotation around 2,000, 2,500, and that's the optimum with the guns. The closest.
Yes, I'm not sure if there's a direct correlation, but anything's possible.
The strange coincidence, this is what we have.
I'd like to bring up something here that I was going to bring up earlier before I knew we were going to get into all this, which is what Mr. Cash asked me what I had prepared, and I didn't have too much other than that one picture that ended up being quite relevant anyway. But this is it's a book that's come out on gravity superconductors interactions, theory and experiment. And strangely enough, it's by Giovanni Mondes, who happens to be an Italian researcher, and another person, Glenn Robertson, and it's got to do with experiments performed at Seibersdorf in Austria since 2006. Now, the part that I find interesting in this abstract that they talk about the book is they mention the gravity-like fields that are not described by conventional Newtonian or Einsteinian gravitation, as in by the accumulation of mass. They say that instead, under certain conditions, these fields are reproducible in the laboratory by small ring or disc-shaped masses that are rotating at chirogenic temperatures. In this case, they have low temperatures to produce the superconductor. And what they're doing is it's a rotating superconductor is what they're talking about. So this extended Heim theory describes these fields, and they postulate 6 fundamental physical interactions. 3 of them are gravitational nature. The 2 additional gravity-like fields that they are talking about may be both attractive and repulsive. Now, when I read that, I just went, wow, that's exactly what Mr. Cash has been telling us over and over about the attractive and repulsive aspects, and yet, normally we don't think of gravity as both attractive and repulsive, and it's hard for us to get our heads around that. Yet, right here, they're mentioning these 2 fields that aren't normally interacted with can be generated under certain circumstances. And based on both the theory and the experiments, that these gravity-like fields are outside the known 4 physical fundamental forces and may result from the conversion of electromagnetic into gravitational fields, which to me is basically what you guys are doing with the magnets, is a conversion of the electromagnetic into gravitational fields. So it goes on to say the gravitomagnetic, as Mr. Kesh says, is magnetic gravitational. Gravitomagnetic effect of these fields is found to be some 18 orders of magnitude larger than the classical frame dragging of general relativity. So they've actually measured these fields to exist 18 zeros stronger. That's quite a few percents compared to what's predicted by Einstein and so on. So they're trying to explain this and so on, and they're using it in terms of the the low temperature
And that's orders of
superconducting.
magnitude, Rick. So that's to the 18th power, not lots of zeros behind it, right?
Yeah, it's like 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10.
18 times.
Yeah, 18 decimal points, essentially. That's right. So that's a lot stronger, yes. So I just thought that was interesting that this just suddenly came up and that we seem to be delving into this range in a way. Now, with the GANS material, it seems like it can act as, under certain circumstances, as this superconductor that normally takes the low temperatures and so on to deal with. But it is under the ring or disc-shaped masses, is what they talk about rotating, is when these particular conditions seem to take effect. So it just seems to correlate very strongly with the experiences that Mr. Kesh has been telling us about, and so on. So it's nice to see some confirmation out there in the relatively mainstream sciencey type people. What do you think of that, Mr. Kesh?
Not much.
I thought you might say that. It pales in comparison to what you're talking about, doesn't it?
The problem has been, first of all, to understand that the gravity is from the same source as a magnetic pole. That was one of the main problems of the physics. Understanding the gravitational field is created by the magnetic pole field, interaction of the same field. And second point, which is again has been one of the complications, has been they never considered the GANS state or the plasma state of the atom is temperature and pressure independent. So superconductivity means when you can transfer all the materials, but when you're in a plasma state, you're a ball of magnetic field, everything is done in a flow of the fields through magnetic field. So it is frictionless. So another word, you call it superconductor. This is where the problem has sat in the world of physics up to now. And in one way, first of all, understanding that the gravitational magnetic fields are of the same source, depending on the polarity interaction. And secondly, once you attained the gravitational magnetic field in a plasma form, then the fields in electronics, you have a vibration. You count on the vibration of the electron. But when you have a plasma, you have no vibration. You rely on the transfer of the energy through magnetic field. It's just sliding on a roller coaster line with what I call grease. There is no friction, full of lubricant. And your lubricant is the field of the same material, because as it produces it, is always slower than itself, because it always picks up another one. So you slide the same field across it, or when you put on it of the same strength, it follows it through. There is no losses. You call this superconductivity, which is the minimum loss. This we call matter state, which you have to rely on the vibration of the electron, because that's environmental condition. So in finding the gravity and magnetic field having the same source, then you can create a plasma of it. Everything moves on the field, not on the matter state. So the two, on this paper, it keeps on speaking about temperature or matter state. You have solved everything because you're not relying on the superconductor. You create a matter which has the behavior of superconductor because it flows between the field and does not have a creation of the interaction due to friction. So in understanding the gravity, understanding a plasma, two of the biggest mysteries of the physics is already solved. So now we can go to the next step and just apply it and see what it gives us. And I think if we give Johnson Group to come up a solution what they want, how much material they want from the pipes or whatever, we can put it in there and test it. You can test the whole thing in a matter of days. We open the labs in the new research center 24 hours a day till we achieve while they're here, and we give it to them to take it with them to see what they can further develop. Because for them, with their knowledge and the system they have there, to do things we do, it takes months because they don't understand the process of the GANs making. This is what we did with Fukushima. Teach the Japanese, but they learned it themselves very fast, was correct. They produced it, and in less than a month and a half, they brought the stratum under control. And now they're doing with the tritium and the cesium. So we give knowledge, and what we produce here with their knowledge, we let them test it there because they come up with different solutions, total open share of knowledge. I hope the American customs will let you take it through. So if there is no other question, we call it the day. What's the time now? Yeah, the time. 11 or 12? Are you sure your watch works correctly? 11:30. Ah, no problem. Okay, so you still have a little bit to go if you want. Is there anything else you want to add to the knowledge?
Yes, actually, the Chinese Fat Boy reactor, Curl actually had got them to measure it properly, so there was a resistance of 8 ohms on that reactor.
So it wasn't nano-coated properly. Hello?
Yep. He said they tried to melt the nano copper pipe to make that material, but failed. I'm not sure. I don't think that was answering the same question. But
so the current is a short circuit.
There's 8 ohms resistance.
Yeah. Yeah, 8 ohm resistance means it's a short circuit. Then okay. Thank you very much, Keshe Foundation China. But you can still achieve it. Try to isolate it, you will achieve it. Have you heard anything from Sohail in China?
I was just going to mention, Sohail says in the chat that we can source directly for rare earth material from the source in China if requested. So he has sources in China for magnets.
What about the reactors he was supposed to let us know today? We do the resourcing later on.
Right, he's diverting from that.
Yeah, exactly.
He's trying to divert our attention, yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to divert your attention because I know it's just a matter of time. Vince, can you put the thing on the shop of the Keshe Foundation? The star formation reactors?
Do you mean the singles?
The singles, yeah.
Yeah, they're ready to go. I just want to get some more information on them, and then I can put them up.
Doesn't matter ready to go. You can go on it because I know it's there. Just put a set of 4 with a stand and the power supply and the motors. From today, if you can load it up, we do it, and then if Soil cannot meet it, we match it here in Italy immediately. We come to an agreement with some Italians. We don't wait for backup because the speed of development is so fast. We can't wait. At a meeting last night with some Italians, we are prepared to match production in Italy immediately for everything.
You mean the single reactors like the 3 we see in the picture? Can I show a picture of that?
Yes.
Okay, there it is up on. Is that what you mean?
We don't see it.
Oh, sorry. There. How about now?
Yeah. Okay. These are the base reactors. You can buy 4 of them to make a set, the disk and everything else. And you can put this on winds with a whole stand as a formation of 4-star with a power supply at 199 euro per set. So per set. Set of 4 reactors, base, top, and a power supply. Correct? Armin? Yeah, you can go ahead with it. You can purchase a set of 4 in a star formation with a power supply line and hopefully the control with it at 199 euro from today. They are made of plastic. The core has these are not the cores are not drawing. The cores are actually what do you call it, produced when Armon was there. What do you call it? The mold was made. Yeah, yeah. So you can pardon. At the moment, it's for people to start working with the power, the star formation. These are star formation sets. You mean you wire the power, you don't power it yourself? That will be done. We don't talk. The last guy tried to show the power, he received a lot of threats. And we saw what happened to him. So we don't disclose it. I've said to Sohail as well that we can actually allow the comb. These combs are to adjust to fit. Come on, Arman. You explain how it works. Arman has to know the background more for it. So what is it?
These reactors, all the 3 I can connect one power supply actually, and then you can have 2 power supplies with it and you can operate. Actually, this is when I was over there, only the core was there, Mr. So the bottom, I cannot describe what's under it.
The motor for rotation is
under the comb.
That's why we build it. So in fact, we have the platform. One of the things, first of all, which days these are getting made per order. So at the moment, we're going to mass production. As we receive orders, the pieces will be made because everything is CNC.
Yeah, can go ahead.
Is it on? Can you hear us? No problem. These are done by, the bottom part is done by CNC. All it is, you literally fit the core directly onto the mounting of the shaft of the motor. And what's the drawing of the base? He's done the base. Yeah, your microphone. You need it, otherwise they can't hear us. It has a loading top. He's coming. He's coming. They're running the microphone man. Okay. Do you want it higher or lower? You got to speak a bit louder, Armin. Okay. I know you're alone, but now you can shout. Okay.
It's a,
it's a screw.
It's not screw. It's a plastic.
Plastic pressure.
Plastic pressure. When you close, just try to glue it, and the core, it comes two parts, but you know they're gonna glue it together, and you have the motor.
Armin, can we verify that? I was told that they are going to come apart. The cores are going to come separately in halves, so that they can be coated if needed at the from the customer, and then glued together or put together themselves.
Okay, that's the logic. So you get it in two halves.
But if they glue it, I think it's gonna be better because
we're
glue
gonna
it properly.
Yes, no problem. It's already manufactured. It's not something because it's already been produced in two halves. But we recommend to you to glue the two parts together before you coating.
Right, and then it's press fit or not press fit, but it can be fit onto the the shaft, so they'll come separately.
Can you speak a bit louder, please?
I'm speaking as loud as I can.
Our cameraman is busy with something else.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you okay.
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 Go ahead again there, Vince.
You can put this outside, inside separately.
Yes, I was just going to say that the cores will come separate from the base, so they can be coated as well and then put onto the base. The shaft will be it'll be held on there via a interference fit, so you can glue it onto the shaft or not.
Yeah, the plate has 6 grooves to be able to choose the 120-degree positioning, and you can literally the mounting, you screw it from the bottom and you can move it back and forth to the position you like. And the stand is more or less like 2 plates and a stand, so you can make your 3-star formation and dictate the height and the position according to the plate. Is not a system to what do you call it? Is an experimental system that people who can't produce systems, they can start experimenting with how to make the system. They decide that. Yeah, this is a prototype running of the system, and then you can decide where you position your reactors, and you decide the height. Then you decide what fuel you want to put in, or you can order extra reactors with the same motor that you can load up different. You just change the core on the top. So there is 4 cores, 4 motors with a mounting, plus a power supply and the plates and the wire connection in one package. So it wants to go in different price, but I think €199 we can meet in plastic. If you want it in copper, will be around about €399 for the
Mr. Cash,
because they have to be manufactured. Yep.
Excuse me. For the prototypes, the price for $199 must be when you're talking about the manufactured price. The prototypes, I was told, were going to be more expensive due to the manufacturing that will be used for them. Is that correct?
No. The retail price for the plastic one is $199. That's what we said we can do.
Right, the plastic one, which is injection molded.
Injection molded.
That's
for
correct.
The copper ones is $399.
The prototypes are ones that are not injection molded due to the time that it takes to get the molding done.
No. We are talking about different things.
Okay.
It's already been produced. The base will be changed. There's no problem with it. Do you have it with you here?
Copper cores.
Yeah, but not the copper cores. The plastic ones and the copper ones. Within 30 days, they'll be made to order. As they arrive, the order goes through to be made, and till we go for a mass production. So in time, you can have your own system to test and to run. And for $199, plastic systems should be no problem with it. So from today, hopefully, once we'll put it up, you can choose the different options, extra cores or whatever you need. You can go through. So
this is what is the next development. And next week, or the week after, we're not it's all we recorded. We're not going to bring anybody in that position unless I decide different. We release the most simple, powerful power supply you have ever could imagine. And it'll be a response to what you asked, the energy supply. It's a very interesting system. And it's just for us to organize it in a way to be done the safe way. And the inventor is of the same opinion of the Keshe Foundation that his knowledge should be free to everyone. He could have made a fortune out of it, but he's opening up the process, and it's amazing how he's done it. I monitored it, I watched it, and it's working for some time enough to prove the concept is correct. And for security reasons, we do not put it out, but when we show it, I show you 100% we will touch the energy supply worldwide. It's a strange, amazing system. It's a beautiful system. I thank him for his collaboration. We are not doing anything moving to put anything out of line, but need be, if there's a blockage or anything else, live here, we produce it on the table, and then we will touch every power supply generation in the world. The cost of it, it's okay. The cost of it will be less than $1. We destroy the power supply beyond imagination. And strange enough, when he was showing it to me, I was laughing my head. I said, I did it 6 years ago. I was not afraid of doing it, but showing it was a different problem. But now a man has broken down the way we work. We always give credit to the inventor. And he will head the Keshe Foundation power supply energy system because he has understood it. And I've invited him to become the second spin-off of the Keshe Foundation. He'll be here, he'll be with us, but he'll be under very tight security with us. And any power supply, as much DC as you like, at the cost of $1. You'll be amazed. And if he wants, he transfers it into AC2. So we'll bring it in, we will show it, and I think we'll produce the production here in Italy, and then we pass it on to China, if so it can match the demand. But if not, you lot can produce it yourself at ½ cent. It's amazing the geniality he's used. He's absolute genius. He's an amazing guy. I spoke with him a year, 2 years ago, and when he showed me things a couple of nights ago, I said, it's impossible. It's absolutely, but it's amazing what he's done. He produces both AC and DC, and we record it for security reasons. And if because I know what it is, I've done it before, but in a simpler way, he's done it much simpler than I thought. You can have as much DC power as long as you need for the rest of your life for $1. That will change the energy supply world. And the thing is, he's been running it for a long time enough as a household energy supply that there is no doubt in the technology. So in the coming weeks, we don't say where and how and who. It will be released that I choose the time of maximum damage. The maximum damage is pushing for the world peace for the ones who don't want to have it. And as a gift today, we had a Cyril's group
hopefully we can do the second damage to open the barriers and the borders of the, what you call, most of the nations. You'll be shocked when you see the power supply. It's absolutely amazing. And you've got a microphone with you. And I'm sure, I'm pretty sure. You hear me? Good. As I said, I'm 100% sure he's listening today in the background. He says he was not supposed to do it. I'm not doing anything. I just tell you, if he doesn't make it, and what do you call it, to show it, I know how it's done. He's showing me how to do it, and it's absolutely sure. You can charge anything you like in your house, any DC, as much as you like, and it doesn't die. So I try to video it, and then in time, we physically produce it here on the table. We've never done a production of anything on the table. We produce it on the table, and for those who can't make it at home, maybe because of the handicap, because if you got two hands, you can make it. And anyone can make it at home at less than $1. Actually, when I looked at it, even when I looked at it more, I think 1 cent is too much. 1 euro cent is too much for the way it's produced. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant how it's done. I congratulate him. And strange enough, it comes from Africa. It comes from African blood. It comes from Africa. Now you see how we work as one team. It's amazing how simple it's been achieved. You can produce kilowatts. Power supply, stronghold, or what do you call it? Stranglehold on lifestyle is finished. Done by an African for Africa, it means Africans will have life like nothing. There's no need for petroleum. He's written it off. It's totally finished. I congratulate him. I know his work in the background, and you will see the process. You can have kilowatts out of a bucket. And as John Cyril Guy tells us, you can do a DC AC conversion if you need it. So be ready for that one in the coming days, and be ready for, most probably, if push comes to shove, the resignation of the Prime Minister of Japan for dishonesty. We will push for it. We'll request for his resignation because he's treated the wrong way the situation with TEPCO. And I told you, I have no hesitation to call for his resignation because we're going to put so much information on the table. As they said, the buck stops at the Prime Minister of Japan. Because the decision at that level to defraud comes from the Prime Minister and nobody else. We'll submit enough information. And it's for TEPCO to put it right. And TEPCO does not make these kind of decisions at that level without the White House and without the Prime Minister directly being involved in cover-up. So it will be an exciting time coming up. I'm sorry to bring this situation. We don't fight anymore. We just put information freely on the table. It's a decision of the governments to decide how they do, how they behave. We gave all the information freely. We showed the know-how, the technology to the Japanese. They announced they cleaned up the stratenum publicly, but
They denied the intermediary from what it was supposed to come, and they withdrew from further testing while they are testing in the background, working with the Keshe Foundation. So we released the technology and how they've done it, and the senior officers, people who've been in intermediaries, and we released the pictures from TEPCO inside Fukushima with all the documents. Then somebody has to answer. If we made a mistake, I apologize, but from what is on the reports of TEPCO, internationally released by IEA, there is only one system which does that, and they didn't have it for 3-4 years till we submitted it, and the process is exactly as we use, and it was used before by the Mexicans, showed us for cleanup. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's a way it shouldn't be done. We gave it as a gift. When you steal a gift, it means you're a thief by nature, and somebody has to answer for this directly, because it has an implication. If we see and it's correct, then the technology has to be available to the Americans with any nuclear fallout in the future, as much as to people in Chernobyl. And any future accident, we have the technology which can immediately be implemented. It costs not much. So that process, which is used and is available, has to become a standard usage for any radiation leak and contamination anywhere around the world. And it's a product of the Keshe Foundation. It's been made by the guys here on the table. I've modified it because of what it was, and it has to be worldwide available. And we go into detail. We release every detail possible. We have all the DHL shipping into TEPCO. We have all the confirmation and the meetings with TEPCO. We will ask the Skype organization to open all the communication which is done in Skype, because by law, American government, the Skype has to be held for 2 years before disposal. So all the evidence sits on the Skype company. They have to open all the conversations. With live testing on the TEPCO table, all has been recorded. So it's an exciting time to come. Any other question? We call it a day today. No questions?
Well, Mr. Keshe, I'd like to, you mentioned, hello?
Hello, yes.
You mentioned contributions from people around the world, different countries and so on. There's a comment from Modris Balodis, who he says, "Good morning, Mr. Keshe. What do you think of this shape reactor?" And just a second while I get it up here.
It looks very nice. It's got, what is this?
This is the Keshe Foundation Malta pyramid-shaped reactor. So let me play the video. It's only a minute or so.
We have one of our reactors, one of their reactors from Malta. That's the bottom side. Very nice. I can imagine who's done this. This is John.
It's under Modris Balodis his channel, but I'm not sure who actually made it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept. It's all nano-coated. So he says, what do you think of this shape as the shape reactor to start with, I guess?
Very good. Why not?
So where we see the markings on it, that would be essentially where the sides of the free plasma would be, I suppose.
Yes, more or less. Yeah. In Malta, Maltese Keshe Foundation guys are very genius with these things. If I tell you the story, when they came to the peace conference in Brescia, they brought the reactors, and it's always on the table in the Sensano. We have it on the wall, and they are very good in coming up with concepts in different ways. Because they have there is a factory which is owned by Joe, and he can produce any metal work you like. There's no problem with it. Thank you very much indeed. Shall we call it a day?
Okay, just one more question, and we'll finish up all the questions. It'll be a quick one. It's from Richard Ubik, and I'd like to get it in. He says, is the generator tested in a vacuum? And if so, is the new nano coating already used to form a dome around the generator to contain the fields? And I think he's talking about the cache generator when you brought that up.
We haven't tested anything of our generators in the vacuum yet.
Okay.
The gas reactors. And Marco tried, but it didn't hold gas. It's not vacuum proof because it collapsed. It was leaking. Yeah. Okay, no problem.
Okay.
We haven't tested it. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for today.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. That was a great presentation today.
And I have a warning for you. I have an information I said at the beginning. Tomorrow's teaching will be done by Rick. So
yeah, a warning's a good idea. Yes.
Rick will do the teaching all day tomorrow. We try to come to some sort of development with the sales group. We allocate Marco and Armand. We're trying to see what we can do in a very rapid way, what we can achieve before they go. Okay, thank you very much indeed.
I'll back them up as much as I can.
Yeah,
I said I'll help them out as much as I can.
It's going to be the dynamic duo from Canada here.
Oh, God, dynamic trio. You got
actually a trio, that's right.
I'll do the backup too.
Who knows how many other Canadians will come out of the woodwork here to help out.
I hope your Prime Minister doesn't have your addresses yet.
Yeah, I tried to avoid giving it to him, but it's okay, because soon his address won't be the same either.
See you later on in the afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh.
You can start the session if you like. Have a pre-run today if you're late. Rick?
Okay, right.
No problem. Thank you very
much.
No
pressure, no problem, yes. And we're going to start and...
let me tell you before you all break up. I was explaining this to Rick, so better a lot of us to understand. We are looking for knowledge seekers who would like to take up a teaching session. Like tomorrow is on by Rick. Any knowledge seeker who sees expertise in different line, we are looking for teachers who will start teaching. There are a lot of experiences. Pardon? Oh, John is taking one session. That's fantastic. So everybody speak to Rick. He's the head teacher. So he decides and he plans it out that we start spreading teaching in a direct way around the world. That we are not confined. Still, everything will be here. It starts from the center here, but we leave like the Suru people show their way. We start getting taught by different people because we understand different languages. Maybe inspires us in different way each teaching. If you're a medical doctor, if you're a plasma, if you're a, God knows, hairdresser, but you understood the subject, you're quite welcome. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Pardon? It has to be to do with the plasma physics and our work. You can't teach history. We have no history in this space. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, that ends the 67th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, and that's the morning teaching for Thursday, June 25th, 2015. And thank you everybody for attending.